Oscar's beginning in Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 DMUBAIN-039's aptitude is not so bad. Li Yu-sang knew what he was going to do when he saw Oscar's smile, and he quickly squeezed his old eyelids at Oscar, which meant that this was a good seed, so don't drive this good seed away. He pointed to Daemube and introduced to Oscar, this examinee's name is Daemube, his martial spirit is white tiger, his gender is male, he likes female. He is 11 years old, and his soul power level is 25, just in line with Shrek's recruitment requirements standard. You just take him in. Daemube's face was speechless. The introduction is the introduction and there is no need to read it according to the registration form. Gender male, like female. Do you need to say it? Although he felt speechless in his heart, he still showed a slight smile on his surface, and said kindly to Oscar, hello, then I will trouble this little brother. Oscar took off his eyes and waved to Daemube and said with a bright smile, hi, Xiaobei. I'm Shrek Academy's big brother Oscar. You can call me Boss Ao. Xiaobei? Boss Ao. Daemube's mouth twitched and asked very speechlessly. Daemube felt that the little kid named Oscar in front of him was a particularly stinky fart, and he still needed a beating. Obviously he looks younger than me, yet he still calls me Xiaobei, and let me call him the boss. If you want me to call Daemube the boss, you have to have the strength to be the boss. He was about to refute this sentence, but Oscar preempted him and said, that's right, if you don't like to be called Boss Ao, then you can call me Big Brother just like Xiao Wu. Don't worry, I won't mind. Xiao Wu? Big Brother? Daemube asked again speechlessly. When Oscar heard Daemube call Big Brother, goosebumps all over his body, he said with a look of disgust, stop calling. I found that I would mind. You should call me Boss Ao. Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu. Oscar shouted to Xiao Wu, who had woken up and was eating watermelon with his small mouth. Xiao Wu heard Oscar's shout and rushed over quickly. She came to Oscar's side and held Oscar's arm and shouted joyfully, Big Brother, why did you ask Xiao Wu to come over? Oscar patted Daemube's shoulder with his hand and said, this is Xiaobei, male. He likes little girls. His soul power is level 25. Let's take him in together. After listening to Oscar's introduction, Xiao Wu gave Daemube a disgusted look. Xiao Wu said angrily, HMPH, what are you looking at? Daemube liked this lively and lovely Xiao Wu very much in his heart, but when he saw that she hated his gaze, he was very cruel to Oscar in his heart. This little kid really knows how to introduce. How can anyone introduce someone who likes little girls? It sounds like he is a playboy. Although he is a playboy, you can't just put this adjective on me when you don't know I am. However, he was very puzzled by the little girl named Xiao Wu in front of him. This Xiao Wu looked younger than this stinky little boy. Could it be that her soul power also exceeded level 25? No way. If this is the case, then hasn't he really lived on a dog all these years? Daemube was brought into Shrek Academy by Oscar and Xiao Wu full of doubts. Led by Oscar and Xiao Wu, they came to that large open space. Oscar introduced this place to Daemube. At this moment, a fat man with red hair was standing on the table, holding a pen in his left hand and a small notebook in his right hand, waving and shouting, Boss Ao, Miss Xiao Wu, why are you here? I have to be busy. Died. This person is Mahangjin, the evil grass chicken. Of course this title must be pronounced separately. Oscar and Xiao Wu brought Daemube to the front of Mahangjin. Oscar shrugged and said, anyway, I don't have any business ahead. It's useless for us to come so early. Mahangjin scratched the back of his head and said embarrassingly, yes. But he suddenly reacted and shouted angrily, then why should I get up early to come here to help teacher Lu take the registration notes? Xiao Wu covered her mouth and laughed, little fatty, who made you grow fatter? The teachers all made you lose weight for the sake of your body. Sister Wu, I haven't eaten in the morning because I came here. Look how thin I have become, and my stomach is full. Mahangjin pointed and patted his beer belly complained. Oscar said very seriously, okay, stop messing around. Old man Lu, this is Damu Bei. His spirit power is level 25. I'll take him away first. Lu Kibin nodded and said, well, you can take him to the 4th level directly. I will leave it to you later. The candidates in the other rows were all stunned by Oscar's words. Their gazes were all fixed on Damu Bei. They looked at this kid who was about their age in disbelief. He would really have level 25 what? At this time, one of the examinees boldly asked, his soul power will really be level 25. We are all about 12 years old. How could he have such a high soul power? Candidates who can reach the 2nd level, their soul power is over level 21, and their age is not over 13 years old. They are outstanding in the original junior college, but in this Shrek Academy, they seem to be very useless. Their mood is of course very impatient. It's just a child younger than them, saying that another child who is similar to them has a soul power of level 25. It doesn't mean that they don't believe it, but anyone else would not believe it. Oscar said impatiently, if you can't do it yourself, it doesn't mean that others can't do it either. Xiao Bei, show them your soul power. While talking, he threw the crystal ball on the table for testing soul power to Damu Bei next to him. Damu Bei was very unwilling to hear that Oscar still called him Xiao Bei. He was actually called Xiao Bei by a child younger than him. Xiao Bei, this is really a day for Xiao Bei. But in order to act aggressive in front of these peers, and to shock Oscar who called him Xiao Bei, he still took the crystal ball Oscar threw over him, and he released his soul power into the crystal ball. In an instant, I saw the crystal ball in Damu Bei's hand shining white light, and the white crystal ball emitted light like a LED light, which looked particularly bright. A playful smile appeared on Lu Kibin's old face and he said, haha, it seems that this year our Shrek Academy will receive another little monster with decent aptitude. Aptitude is not bad. Damu Bei and the other examinees shouted in disbelief and surprise in unison. Lu Kibin nodded with a smile. That's right, it's just okay. Ask for the first order. End of this chapter. Chapter 102 Xiao Bei, you want to call me Miss Xiao? Lu Kibin continued to Damu Bei, you are already 11 years old, only 1 year away from 12 years old, and your soul power has just reached level 25, barely reaching our Shrek Recruiting Academy's standard. It can only be regarded as passable. Of course, if there is a genius among you, it's a different matter. Mahanjan, show them your soul power. Mahanjan listlessly took the crystal ball from Damu Bei's hand. Immediately the white light shone again, but his spirit power was only level 11. Lu Kibin said, you have seen Mahanjan's soul power. His soul power is 11th level, but he has just turned 6 years old, and it is only less than half a month before he awakens his martial soul. That's all. Innately full of soul power. Damu Bei said in surprise. Lu Kibin looked at Damu Bei curiously and said, that's right, you still have some knowledge. It seems that you are not an ordinary examinee. And the examinee who just questioned Damu Bei's spirit power level once again pointed to Xiao Wu who was leaning on Oscar's body and said, what about her? As a student of your academy, what kind of girl is she? A genius. She can't be born full of soul power. Lu Kibin looked at the candidate whose curiosity killed the cat. He didn't say any more, but retreated to his seat with a sigh. Even the chubby Mahanjan retreated behind Lu Kibin in fear. Xiao Wu was happily leaning on Oscar's body to watch the excitement, but this examinee pointed at her and questioned her ability to become a Shrek student, which made her face swell with anger. Xiao Wu slowly let go of the hands wrapped around Oscar's arms and walked towards the examinee. At this moment Oscar said, Xiao Wu, be gentle, don't kill him. Xiao Wu turned her head and stuck out her tongue and said with a cute laugh, hee hee, big brother, Xiao Wu knows. Xiao Wu won't kill him. Xiao Wu crossed her hands and snapped her fingers a few times and said fiercely to the candidate who questioned her strength, do you dare to fight with me? As long as you defeat me, my position as a student is yours. The examinee looked at the little girl in front of him who was about the same height as him and said with a smile, little sister, what do you say counts? This candidate is not an ordinary candidate, although he is asking Xiao Wu, but his eyes are on Lu Kibin. Lu Kibin had black lines on his face, and he thought to himself, is this little kid candidate sick? You call me little sister, what do you think I am? A bad old man point, that's right. If he wasn't sick, he could provoke Xiao Wu, alas ask for more blessings. Lukebin nodded to the examinee, and outsiders saw this scene, as if Lukebin had agreed to the examinee to call him his little sister, which made people feel very uncomfortable. These candidates had to make room for Xiao Wu and the candidate. The candidate looked at Xiao Wu with a naughty smile and said, "Little sister, don't blame brother for bullying you. Brother, my martial spirit is Fog Wolf. I have a soul power of level 21. Xiao Wu curled her lips and ignored him, but the examinee quickly released his martial spirit after saying that sentence and rushed towards Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu is now wearing a princess dress. She is really not suitable for fighting, but with her strength, it is extremely easy for this candidate. Charming. Xiao Wu was releasing her charm, and the battle had already been declared over. The examinee's eyes had turned into heart shapes, and he was completely fascinated by Xiao Wu's figure. The next thing to greet him is naturally Xiao Wu's first soul skill, waist bow. Xiao Wu wore a pair of crystal shoes. Although she didn't use too much force, she just kicked the examinee's waist with the tip of the shoe, but the examinee was still kicked away by her. On the roof of the cabin 10 meters away, everyone present except Oscar felt very scared by Xiao Wu's performance. After finishing solving the examinee, Xiao Wu tiptoed to Oscar's side and said mischievously, "Big brother, isn't Xiao Wu very good?" Xiao Wu? Wu didn't kill him. Oscar patted Xiao Wu's head and said dotingly, "Well, Xiao Wu is so good." The corners of Damu Bei's mouth trembled and he thought, "Be good? You call this good? Well, how cute." He has a deep understanding of Xiao Wu's strength. If I read correctly just now, she has released 2 soul skills, which means that this little girl who is only 5 or 6 years old has at least level 21 the above soul power, and the soul skill she released just now is even unstoppable to me. This combat power is too amazing. The level of this evildoer is completely beyond his cognition. Is this still a person? Could it be that I have practiced on dogs before? No wonder the teacher said that his aptitude is not bad. It turned out that the teacher was saving face for him. It's okay here. My aptitude is not even good enough here. Oscar watched Damu Bei's face change rapidly and felt amused in his heart. It seems that this young Master Day was it, but this is just the beginning. He said to Lukebin and Mahanjan, "Well, you guys take care of the aftermath. I'll take him to the 4th level first. Bye." After he finished speaking, he dragged Xiao Wu and the dazed Damu Bei away, leaving only Lukebin and Mahanjan with bitter faces. Lukebin smiled and said to Mahanjan, "Hanjan, you don't need to make this note for me. You are responsible for getting that examinee down." Mahanjan's bitter tears flowed down the corners of his eyes. Oscar, Xiao Wu and Damu Bei walked in the corridor. Damu Bei was very curious about Xiao Wu's soul power. He couldn't help asking Xiao Wu, "Sister Xiao Wu, if I read correctly just now, you have used 2 soul skills, so what level is your soul power?" "Xiao Bei, you want to call me Miss Xiao Wu?" Xiao Wu said with a fierce face. Damu Bei gritted his teeth. He is really aggrieved now. He is the top genius of the Star Luo Empire, yet he was bullied by 2 brats in various ways. One called him Boss Ao, and the other called him Miss Xiao. What a noob. But in order to understand Xiao Wu's soul power level, he still chose to swallow those 3 words. Miss Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu cheerfully shook Oscar's arm and said joyfully, "Brother, did you hear that? Xiao Bei called me Sister Xiao Wu." He first called Sister Xiao Wu, not Boss Ao, so Xiao Wu wants to punish Big Brother O. Oscar asked bitterly, "Then how will Xiao Wu punish Big Brother?" Xiao Wu's face was rosy, and she said softly, "Of course Xiao Wu will punish Big Brother not to wear clothes and sleep with Xiao Wu at night." Damu Bei looked helpless behind them. "They actually bet on my first name, and the content of the bet is still so violent. Who can bet with me like this? Ask for the first order." End of this chapter. Chapter 103 MUBAI and -039 S New Year 039 S Kill. Oscar patted Damu Bei on the shoulder and said to him earnestly, "Little Bei, it's not that I, the boss, don't tell you, but according to the regulations of Shrek Academy, you are not yet a student of our Shrek Academy. We must keep it a secret from you now, and we will not tell you until you pass the 4th level and officially become a Shrek student." Daimubei felt that his blood pressure was a bit high, his head was dizzy with anger. Oscar meant that his yelling at Miss Wu just now was for nothing, which made him feel like Xiaobei again. He asked angrily, "Then you can always tell me what the 4 levels of the entrance exam are about." Oscar shook his head and said, "Yes. Daimubei, is this fucking possible or not?" Oscar began to explain to Daimubei what the 4 tests of the exam were all about. Daimubei also had a deep understanding of the content of the Shrek exam, and he understood that the 4th test he was about to face was the assessment of actual combat experience of, "Okay, we are here." Oscar stopped and said. Daimubei's expression is very confused now, because he came to another open space. This open space is much smaller than before, only about 200 square meters. But that's not what confuses him. What confuses him is that there's only 1 table, 2 chairs and a double bed. Are you sure this is the place where the 4th level assesses actual combat experience? Isn't it a place for field battles? It's normal to have a table and chairs. But what do you mean by getting a double bed? Does this mean to fight in the field? Could it be that the 4th test is the actual combat experience in the field? If it comes to assessing this, I, young Master Day, have never been afraid of anyone. 1-on-2 is no problem at all. Of course, this is just his playful idea. How could he really think that this is a test of field combat experience? If so, wouldn't he be happy to die? This is the 4th stage of assessing actual combat experience. There is nothing wrong with it. What about the assessment teacher here? Could it be that he went on strike and went home to sleep? Let's get started. Go home early and go to bed early, Oscar said back. Daimubei blinked and asked in disbelief, "Let's start? Where are the teachers in charge of the assessment?" Oscar looked at him incredulously. "Xiaobei, who told you that the 4th test is the teacher, and Xiao Wu and I are in charge of the 4th test?" Daimubei was surprised. "You two are in charge of assessing the 4th level?" Oscar smiled and said, "That's right. Don't worry, I won't let Xiao Wu take action. You don't have to be afraid of her. As long as you can stick to my hand, you will pass the examination." Hearing Oscar's words, Daimubei let go of the heart that had been suspended just now. He was afraid of nothing but Xiao Wu's enchanting soul ability. She had absolutely no resistance to that enchanting soul ability. Needless to say, persisted for a while. It's so fragrant. It's hard to hold on for 3 seconds. As long as Xiao Wu doesn't make a move, it's fine. No matter how powerful this brat named Oscar is, can he still beat Xiao Wu? Don't talk about sticking to it. See if I don't beat you all over the place. This little brat was farting with me before. See if I don't beat you into a fart. Daimubei stretched out a hand and hooked it and said vigorously, "Come on, Oscar." Oscar asked suspiciously, "Xiaobei, are you sure you are ready? Don't you know what level my soul power is?" "Of course you won't tell me if you ask, because it's a secret." Daimubei rolled his eyes without thinking for sure and affirmed, "I'm always preparing." After he finished speaking, he released his martial soul. White tiger, possessed. A strong golden light suddenly burst out from his body. His arms stretched out to the sides of his body, his chest puffed up, and the muscles all over his body suddenly swelled up, propping up his torn white clothes. Every muscle on his body became extremely obvious under his clothes, giving off a very violent aura. There were also 4 faint lines on his forehead, of course, 3 horizontal and 1 vertical one characters, as if he was announcing that he was the hidden old king next door. His hands have also become extraordinarily huge, even compared to Zhao Waoqi's palms. The white hair covers his entire palm, which looks like the cute claws of a big cat. If this is a little girl, the words are so cute, but unfortunately he is a rough man. While his palm was flicking, sharp claws popped out of his palm, without any of the gentle and cute gesture just now. Each claw was like a small dagger, emitting a gloomy cold light. His 4 pupils, which were different from others, also turned into a faint blue color, and a golden tiger shape loomed behind him. Under his feet, 2 shining soul rings quietly rose up. Not surprisingly, they were 200-year-old soul rings, and a surge of soul power covered all around. Oscar looked at Daimubei, who was ready, and shook his head, and said with a sigh, "Since you are ready, let's start." While talking, He also released his soul power. His soul power is different from Daemubei's sharpness and killing. His soul power gives people a very warm feeling, like a big brother doting on a little sister, making people extra relaxed and comfortable. Daemubei is very strange. There is only one kind of soul master who can make people feel this kind of soul power, and that is the auxiliary system soul master. Could it be that Oscar is an auxiliary type soul master? Then I still torture him to death. Auxiliary soul masters have no fighting ability and need other teammates to protect them, but he has no teammates now, so he is a living target. Daemubei grinned joyfully at the thought of this, since he is an auxiliary system soul master. Don't blame me, my attack type battle soul master is specially designed to defeat you, an auxiliary system soul master. Daemubei moved. His body full of explosive power came in front of Oscar in an instant. He was going to use his powerful strength to kill Oscar instantly. But how could Oscar let him get his wish? I saw his Balingay soul bone emitting green light, and an emerald green shield condensed in front of him. Daemubei's fist hit the shield firmly. Suddenly there was a muffled sound. Daemubei's eyes were serious, because not only did he not break the shield with his punch, but his hands still hurt a little. Daemubei was startled. He had clearly seen Oscar's knee flickering just now. His shield was released from his knee. Could it be a soul bone? No, it's impossible. I haven't heard of soul bones having knees either. Then what kind of weird soul skill is he? Daemubei didn't have time to think about it. He was never a patient person. He saw his figure flickering quickly and suddenly ran behind Oscar. This time he was going to surprise Oscar from behind. Mubei Millennium Kill ask for the first order. End of this chapter. Chapter 104 Xiaobei, are you paralyzed? I saw Daemubei go around behind Oscar. He learned smart this time. He stopped beating with his hands. This time he stretched out one foot and kicked Oscar's ass hard with the tip of his shoe. He thought in his heart, his soul power is obviously of the auxiliary type, but he has the soul skills of the defense type. He has a shield in front, so he must not have a shield behind him. Watch me blow your exhaust. But after he stretched out his foot, he was stunned again, because before his foot kicked Oscar's ass, he saw Oscar's ass emitting that emerald green light again. He's thankful it's emerald green and not yellow. Daemubei immediately shouted. Fuck, it was too late for him to stop. There was another muffled sound, and his foot kicked firmly on the God-Eater shield behind Oscar again. It was like a person stomping his foot with all his strength, so he paralyzed. Of course it was, because his feet were paralyzed, but he felt that his whole body was paralyzed. Is this still a person? Make yourself look like a bastard, with shells on the front and back. How can he beat him? Fortunately, he only needs to persist for a stick of incense to pass. It is really not an easy task for him to beat Oscar. However, although this condition is for him to persist for a long time, he has never been a patient person, and he has a particularly strong desire to win. He wanted to defeat Oscar from the beginning, and he must teach him a lesson. Call him Xiaobei's brat. He stomped his newly paralyzed foot, and in an instant his evil eyes suddenly turned white, and the first of the two spirit rings on his body suddenly shone brightly. The first soul skill, White Tiger Body Barrier. Daemubei's first spirit ability, White Tiger Body Barrier, is not just a defensive spirit ability. His first spirit ability can increase his attack, defense, and strength by 50.00%. The moment he activated this soul ability, he kicked Oscar's ass again. Oscar turned a blind eye to this. Since Xiaobei wants to kick, let him kick. Anyway, it's not me that hurts. Then there was another muffled sound. Even if Daemubei used the first spirit ability, it was still useless. He still couldn't break Oscar's shield armor, and this time his right foot was completely paralyzed. He struggled to stay on the spot, stamping his feet, trying to make his feet no longer numb as soon as possible. Xiaobei, are you paralyzed? Oscar asked, looking back at Daemubei. Daemubei raised his head to look at Oscar, but he ignored him, because this guy was obviously scolding him. Oscar sighed and said helplessly, oh, it's not my fault, the boss. You fell down before I even made a move. Daemubei stood up quickly by Oscar's anger. He angrily used his second soul skill, White Tiger Light Wave. The launch of the White Tiger's fierce light waves is naturally amazing. Circles of white light waves rush towards Oscar's body. Because the distance is very close, Oscar has no time to dodge. Of course he doesn't need to dodge. He has the existence of the God-Eater shield, not to mention Daemube now. Even if he has the third soul ability, he can't help him. Daemube is in a very bad mood now, because he has used all his strength, and he still caused even a little damage to Oscar. This Oscar shield is really too strong, and he has not used it yet. What about his attacking soul skills? However, Oscar didn't use his attacking soul ability, because his sausage martial soul wasn't an attacking soul ability, and his dragon tattoo still needed to be kept secret. He looked at Daemube with a smirk and said, "The time for a stick of incense is almost over. Now it's my turn to make a move." Daemube's face was serious. He took a defensive posture, ready to meet Oscar's next attack. However, he was too frightened to move in the next moment, because he saw a colorful boa constrictor in front of him. The boa constrictor was almost 5 meters long, which meant that the boa constrictor had been nearly 500 years old. Colorful sky swallowing python, that is nearly 500 years old. Daemube roared in surprise, and he was surprised to find that the 5-colored sky swallowing python was surrounding Oscar. Don't think that this 5-colored sky swallowing python was summoned by Oscar. The corners of his mouth trembled slightly. This Oscar's strength is too terrifying. Not only does he have defensive soul skills, but he also has such a powerful beast pet. How can he resist a stick of incense? And this Oscar has not yet released his martial soul. That is to say, he was defeated before he released his martial spirit. The gap between them is too big. He originally thought that Aozhou was the most evil student in Shrek Academy, so Oscar is the most evil monster. But he has no intention of admitting defeat, because as the Prince of the Star Luo Empire, this Shrek Academy is his only chance. If he gives up this chance, then the one who meets him will definitely be a dead end. His eyes were extremely firm, even facing the huge little Kalen without a trace of fear. He activated his second soul skill White Tiger Light Wave again, and charged towards the little Kalen. But how could his attack cause harm to little Kalen? To Zio Kalen, this White Tiger's fierce light wave is not as good as scratching an itch. At the very least, he could still feel the tingle when he was tickled. It was just like a little ant scolding in front of him. Zio Kalen didn't even pay attention to him. It just stared at Daemube with those two glowing red eyes, and blinked cutely. Needless to say, this trick was definitely learned from its master Oscar. Just looking at you, staring at you. Although Daemube knew that this little Kalen would not hurt him, he still felt a little scared. His legs trembled unconsciously. He really wanted to move now, but he really couldn't control his legs right now. But what he thought was really naive. He thought that Oscar would not let Zio Kalen hurt him, but he was really wrong. Little Kalen just stared at Daemube intently for a few seconds. Then it opened its big mouth to bite Daemube's body. If Daemube was firmly bitten by this big mouth, even if he survived seriously injured. Daemube's 4 pupils suddenly dilated. He looked at Zio Kalen and Oscar in disbelief. They actually meant it. He didn't have time to think about it, so he used all his strength to hide aside. His speed became very fast with the improvement of the Wuhan White Tiger possession and the first soul skill White Tiger body barrier. But his speed also depends on the compared with anyone. If it is compared with Mahanjan, it is indeed fast. But for the little Kalen of the 1000-year soul beast, it is not as fast as the tortoise. He stretched out his hands and hid to the side in a sumo pose, and his posture was like a bone thrown out by the owner, and the little Kalen was the owner's little pet. Little Kalen's roar sounded, "AWW, I'm paralyzed. First order, first order, first order. Ask for a monthly ticket. Ask for support." End of this chapter. Chapter 105. Daemube, your sausage reaches my throat. Daemube watched Zio Kalen's bloody big mouth bite towards him. This can be described as a very terrifying thing. Fortunately he drank less water before coming. Otherwise he would definitely pee his pants off. It was too late for him to escape now, so he could only close his eyes and silently wait for the cruel fate that would meet him next. At this moment, he thought a lot. Originally, he wanted to improve his strength in Shrek Academy, so that he could become a veritable little monster in Shrek Academy. Xiaobe couldn't even describe his current mood. He felt that his body was wet in an instant, and then there was no more. He just felt that his body was very wet, and sticky. He felt something was wrong. Doesn't this colorful swallowing python chew when eating? Why didn't you feel any pain at all? And the body did not feel the force of the squeeze, and the breathing was smooth. He felt something was wrong, and opened his eyes in an instant, and what caught his 4 pupils was the scene of Xiao Kalin wrapping his long tongue around him. No wonder he felt his body was very lubricated. It turned out that this was Xiao Kalin's saliva. But why is this saliva green? Thinking of this, he felt that his head was a little heavy, and he suddenly thought, what the hell is saliva there? This is full of venom. He was dazed, and heard a sentence in a trance. Xiao Bei, congratulations on becoming an official student of Shrek Academy. After hearing this sentence, a happy smile rose from the corner of his mouth. He knew that he had finally passed the test, and he didn't have to die. It's just that, as soon as he showed this happy smile, he felt a super full feeling in his mouth. Why is it a super fulfilling feeling? Because this stuff that made him very full actually reached his throat. This made him, who was about to pass out, open his eyes in an instant. He felt that he was very energetic and full. He was very curious about what was in his mouth. So he spat out what was in his mouth, and he found that it was a sausage, which was 3 centimeters thick and 12 centimeters long. No wonder he can feel a super full feeling. Although he is bigger than his peers, he is still a child who has not grown up. The centimeter sausage is enough for him. Daemube looked at the sausage in his hand curiously. Is the effect of this sausage so good? His current body was covered in the venom of the colorful sky-swallowing python, and he didn't feel corroded by the poison, just by holding the sausage in his mouth. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering the temporary task. Let Daemube suck your sausage for an hour. The task reward. Increase the level of soul power by 1 level. Task time limit, 2 hours. The voice of the god of cookery system sounded in Oscar's mind. Oscar frowned. Originally he just wanted to tease Daemube, but he actually triggered the mission. Little baby, don't blame me for this. I didn't mean to tease you. So he said with a smirk, Xiaobe, if you look at it for another 3 seconds, you will pass out. There is still 1 second left. Daemube hastily stuffed the sausage back into his mouth just now, so the sausage hit his throat again. His brows were slightly frowned, and there was a hint of reluctance on his expression, but there was still a look of enjoyment. His appearance with the sausage in his mouth was really unsightly. Even Oscar couldn't bear to look at him directly, let alone said Xiao Wu on the side. Xiao Wu directly turned her little face to the side. Her face was ruddy. She was thinking of something. Oscar said earnestly, Xiao Bei, you have passed the test of the 4th level, and you are a formal student of Shrek Academy from now on. Let me introduce us officially to you now. This is your sister Xiao Wu. Her martial spirit is a rabbit. She is a level 22 assault soul master. You must call her Miss Xiao Wu from now on. Did you hear me? Daemube quickly nodded with a sausage in his mouth. Oh. He dare not refuse now. Neither of these 2 strengths can be resisted by him, so it's not a loss to call her a sister. My name is Oscar. You will call me Boss AO from now on. My martial spirit is a sausage. The sausage you are holding in your mouth is made by me. My soul power level is 29. Level 29. Daemube shouted in surprise as he spat out the sausage. Oscar thought to himself, there is nothing surprising about this. If you hold on a little longer, I will be level. The moment he yelled this sentence, he stuffed the sausage back into his mouth again, but he couldn't help the doubt in his heart, spit it out again and asked, what kind of soul master are you, boss? Food, is it a defensive soul master? Daemube's repeated actions made Oscar feel as if he saw a small piece, and this Daemube was still a man, so he felt a little queasy in his stomach. Oscar held back his vomit and replied to Daemube, what you said is almost the same. Your boss and I are temporarily food type, attack type, defensive type, and auxiliary type soul masters. Daemube felt that Oscar was playing tricks on him, but he had nothing to refute, because Oscar didn't lie to him. Just now he had already shown his defensive shield and the ability to resist Xiao Kalin's poison. What made Daemube curious was that besides these 2 abilities, Oscar was actually an attack type. That is to say, could his sausage spirit still attack? And what did he mean for the time being? Is he ready for a full development? Isn't he afraid of chewing too much? Then he obviously has the ability to attack. So why did he have to release the little colored scale of the animal pet just now to scare me? Is he playing tricks on me just for me to call you boss AO? Yes. Otherwise, he couldn't emphasize this matter again and again. Okay, let's go. It seems that there will never be any students who will be able to come to the 4th level today. I will take you to your room to rest. Xiaobei, you must remember that you can't put the poison on your body until you wash off the venom. Spit out the sausage, otherwise no one will be able to save you. Oscar said seriously. Daemubei nodded honestly. After all, his life is controlled by his own mouth. But he couldn't help but spit it out and asked Oscar, Boss AO, do you have to put your sausage against your throat to work? You can try it. Oscar said playfully. Of course Daemubei didn't dare to try it. It was his own life to try it, so he put it back in his mouth again. Even though he was hurt by the sausage, he still frowned and covered his mouth with his hand, afraid that it would fall out. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a monthly ticket. Ask for a recommendation ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 106, the second piece of the legendary kitchen utensil clue. A while later, Oscar brought Daemubei into a small wooden cabin. This small wooden cabin is not that big, only about 10 square meters in size. There is a bed on each side of the room, and a bed on top of the bed, a brand new set of quilts. In addition to these 2 beds, there are 2 tables and 2 chairs in the room, and a vase is placed on the table, and there are some beautiful flowers in the vase. But the variety of flowers in the vase turned out to be chrysanthemums, and they were yellow and white chrysanthemums. Although the flowers are chrysanthemums, the smell is very fragrant, which fills the whole room with the fragrance of chrysanthemums, making people feel particularly refreshed. Oscar felt very embarrassed about this. Can't these bad old men change to flowers, putting chrysanthemums in this room, and smelling the fragrance of chrysanthemums? Why is it so bad? Daemubei felt incredible looking at this rather delicate dormitory. Because when he saw the entrance of Shrek Academy, he had a very deep understanding of the environment of Shrek Academy. If you use one word to describe it, it is broken. If you use 2 words, it is really broken. And if you use 3 words, it is really broken. To describe it in words, it was so fucking broken. So broken that he even wondered if this was Shrek Academy. But in such a dilapidated Shrek Academy, the students' dormitory is so exquisite, although it is still a little worse than the hotel. But in such a dilapidated Shrek Academy, this really surprised him. And the reason why this room became so exquisite is of course due to the tens of thousands of gold soul coins sponsored by the sponsor's father, Oscar. Without the sponsorship of Oscar, this room would only have 2 beds at most, and the whole room is full of cobwebs, not to mention the brand new bedding, and the smell of chrysanthemums in the room. It would be nice if there was no smell. Oscar pointed to one of the beds and said, Xiaobei, this is your dormitory in the future. The bed next to you is Mahanjan's. You should wash yourself first. Let's go first. When it's time for dinner, I will let Mahanjan call you. So Oscar took Xiaowu and left here, leaving Daemubei to wash here by himself. But what was funny was that he still had a sausage in his mouth when he was taking a shower. Hehehe, big brother, you are so bad. You can resist Xiaokalen's poison by eating your sausage, but you actually let Xiaobei have a sausage in his mouth. Xiaowu laughed while holding Oscar's arm. Hey, I'm not bad at all. Big brother is bad and Xiaowu is bad too. Oscar stopped and stroked Xiaowu's hair dotingly. HMPH brother, you want to play tricks on Xiaowu again? Xiaowu doesn't want it. Xiaowu blushed and leaned on Oscar's shoulder coquettishly. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the temporary task of letting Daemubei suck your sausage for an hour. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the task reward. Increase the level of soul power by 1 level. Reward the host's soul power by 1 level, and the host's current soul power level is 30. The mechanical sound of the system sounded in Oscar's mind, and the corner of Oscar's mouth raised a smile. Now he only needs to attach a soul ring to become a soul master. In the dead of night, the entire Shrek Academy fell into silence, and there was no lively scene in the daytime. During the daytime enrollment, as Oscar expected, there was not even a single candidate who passed the 3rd test. A group of Shrek's monsters were sitting in front of the big dining table. Of course, these monsters included Shrek's teachers and students. This time, Shrek's teachers were all present. In addition to the two principals, Xiaozin, Lu Kibin, and Li Yusang, there are also several teachers, and these teachers were of course recruited by Flender within the past 5 years. Oscar was really quite speechless to Flender. There were not 5 Shrek students yet, the teacher made up 10 of them. If Flender hadn't asked him for sponsorship this year, he would have thought that the Four Eyes were trying to trick him into getting his golden soul coins. It's still a very familiar process, and we have to introduce each other, but Oscar's current status is very embarrassing. He is both a student of Shrek and the patron father of Shrek Academy. Impossible to improve. They have become smooth now, even though the original old wrinkles have been reduced a lot, and the few remaining folds still exude an oily light. And because of Oscar's existence, Daemubei's existence also became very non-existent. Mahanjan, who was standing next to him, patted him on the shoulder helplessly, and said to him, Xiaobei, in this situation, you'll get used to it gradually. After all, that's how I got here. Daemubei looked at the little fat man next to him who had the same illness as him, and also stretched out his hand to pat Mahanjan's shoulder, and said helplessly, okay. But he suddenly realized that this Mahanjan seemed to call him Xiaobei just now. Those two Evaldoers called me Xiaobei. I admit it. You are not as powerful as me, little fat man. How dare you call me Xiaobei? So Daemubei beat Mahanjan violently. Under the severe beatings, Mahanjan's mouth finally lost its skin, and he honestly called out, Brother Bei. Mahanjan feels that he is in great pain now. He desperately wants Shrek to have another junior girl or junior who is weaker than him, so that he can bully others. But his idea was doomed to fail, and in the next few days, no candidate from Shrek Academy could enter Shrek Academy. Oscar and Xiaowu also lived in Shrek Academy for the past few days. After all, it was too troublesome for them to run back and forth. In the past few days, he also took out 1,000 gold soul coins and gave them to Frandy. He had only 2 wishes when he took out the 1,000 gold soul coins. One was to replace the chrysanthemums in the house with roses. He didn't want to sleep next to the chrysanthemums and smell the scent of chrysanthemums as soon as he entered the room. And the other is to redecorate the gate of Shrek Academy. Oscar is quite satisfied with the interior of Shrek Academy, because in the past few years of improvement, the wooden houses of Shrek Academy have been redecorated. The only thing is the dilapidated floor. It was also replaced with a brand new one, but the dilapidated door made him feel very uncomfortable. Especially the green monster logo hanging in the middle. He didn't like that he was green very much, and he expressed all his thoughts to Flender, the dean. But to Oscar's surprise, after he said all his thoughts, the voice of the system actually sounded in his mind. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering the kitchen clue task. Replace Shrek's door with a rainbow door full of love. Mission reward, a legendary kitchen clue. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a monthly pass. Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 107 SHREK and -039. S teachers have started a side job. This sudden kitchen clue task made Oscar very excited. He has been waiting for this kitchen utensil task for 5 full years. During these 5 years, he has been looking forward to it during the day and at night. But this kitchen utensil task seems to be forgotten, and it just doesn't trigger. He was wondering whether this kitchen utensil task could be triggered after the 7 Shrek monsters gathered together. But after Daemubei joined Shrek Academy, he just suggested to Flender to renovate the gate. Then the system released the kitchen clue mission to him, which made Oscar feel very unreal. He had done so many missions before, and even Mahanjan joined Shrek Academy did not trigger this kitchen clue mission. It seems that triggering this mission requires special skills conditions too. It's just that Oscar still hasn't figured out what the conditions to trigger this mission are. So on the 4th day of enrollment at Shrek Academy, a brand new door appeared at the gate of Shrek Academy. This big arch is as cute as the system requires. This big arch is like a rainbow door for a couple to get married. Although the whole big arch is still made of wood, there are various exquisite decorations on it, such as little stars and little moons. Especially on the upper part of the arch, there is a large red heart-shaped decoration, which is very round. It is worthwhile that there is a brand under the 2 hearts, and on a wooden sign in the middle are engraved the 5 characters of Shrek Academy. These 5 characters are white and not very big, but these characters can make people feel the same at the first moment when they see the big arch. Just look at these small words. And there is still a monster directly above these 5 characters, but compared with the previous green monster, this new monster is really too cute. The original very green and black color has become very cute. The color of this monster is like a newborn baby, or like a special balloon. The teachers of Shrek Academy are very satisfied with the new gate of Shrek Academy. Compared with the previous gate, this gate is several times better. This makes the examinees queuing up at the gate and the parents who accompanied their children to come feel very happy, the comfort and warmth. Especially for these parents who are not too old, this door actually made them feel the feeling of being in love. When they saw the Shrek's new door, they had a very impulsive idea, that is to go to the hotel, to feel the feeling of being in love. Scored twice. Flender was also very happy and satisfied with this, because he didn't spend much money to build this gate, and the original keel was still used for this arch. He just asked someone to paint it, and all the money he spent was spent on it. It's on the decorations, so he still has more than half of the gold soul coins left in his hand, and he would show a cunning smirk when he didn't think of it. In addition to the money he left behind, he was even more pleased that Oscar also provided him with a new way to make money. The way to make money is to declare that the gate of Shrek Academy has the ability to make love last forever. As long as the names of the man and the woman are left on the Shrek arch, the love between them will last longer. Of course, this requires a golden soul coin. Under the publicity, the gate of Shrek Academy has become a place for young couples to check in just a few days. Of course, this also includes some greasy pigs who come here with good cabbage, and there are quite a lot of such people. Because of this, the entrance of Shrek Academy was overcrowded, and there were really too many people gathered. And Shrek's teachers also developed their own side jobs. And likely Yusang took advantage of his convenience to sell sticks at the door while going to work, but this stick was advertised as a long-lasting stick, so his sticks were sold at a high price. In order to start a side job, Luca Bin even handed over the second level to other teachers, and he brought Ma Hongjin out to sell Zingluoki. There are no spare items, so these people will buy a set and keep it at home regardless of whether they will play or not. And Shaozin, the chef, is the most free one now, because Oscar is here, so he doesn't need to cook at all. Of course, if he cooks, no one will eat. That's why he is the leader of a sideline business. What he sells is very simple and clear. Of course, he sells jelly beans. This jelly bean is a must-have for young couples. As long as the couple who comes here to check in, they don't need it. If Shaozin deliberately advertises or sells them, they will definitely buy Shaozin's jelly beans by themselves. Then they gave jelly bean balls. You feed me one, I feed you one, and some of them even acted like no one else, and exchanged the jelly beans in each other's mouths very moistly. Shaozin has really received a lot of money in the past few days. It is no exaggeration to say that he is the richest teacher in Shrek Academy. Flender was particularly jealous of this. He, the dean, even started a side job himself. He took out all the gadgets in his small shop. Although few people bought them, compared with the ones sold in his small shop, efficiency is much faster. Oscar brought Xiao Wu here cheerfully. Xiao Wu raised her head and saw the doorway with a new look and exclaimed, "Wow, come to me see." Oscar answered in an awkward manner from the side. Xiao Wu asked curiously, "Big brother, didn't you and Xiao Wu just passed Missy? Why did you still come to Missy?" Oscar dotingly said, "Xiao Wu, coming to Missy doesn't mean to come to eat. The big brother is just praising how nice it is to visit with love." Yeah, Xiao Wu also thinks it's very nice to visit with love. Big brother, you are so talented. Xiao Wu loves you to death. Xiao Wu also tapped the water, as if no one else was there. Of course the dragon flies Xiao Wu, and the water is of course Oscar. After all, only Oscar can be so watery. Oscar is very worried now, because his task has not been completed yet. Obviously this gate has become so beautiful, why hasn't he completed this task? He took a closer look at the task again. This task was to replace Shrek's gate with a rainbow gate full of love. After checking it over, he understood where his mission was missing. This door was indeed full of love, but it was not a rainbow door. The reason why the Rainbow Gate is called the Rainbow Gate, of course, requires multiple colors. At least 7 colors can be called the Rainbow Gate. He thought of a solution in an instant, and he dragged Douluo to the candy bean stall, where the business was booming. He came to Shaoxin's side, and whispered into Shaoxin's ear. Shaoxin nodded, after listening, and said seriously, "Don't worry. As long as you let the director pay cash on delivery. Ask for a monthly ticket. Please recommend tickets." End of this chapter. Chapter 108. The second piece of kitchen utensils is in Notting City. After Shaoxin finished speaking, he released his jellybean martial soul, and the very expensive appearance special effect was displayed in front of everyone, with 7 bright colors intersecting and shining around him, and his 7 soul rings rose slowly under his feet. Why the soul ring rises slowly? Of course it's because of him trying to pretend. As a teacher of Shrek Academy, it's really shameful for you to say that you don't know how to pretend. And the effect of his martial soul release naturally reached his inner satisfaction. Everyone at the gate of Shrek Academy was attracted by his colorful colors. Of course, the most important thing is his 7 rising spirit rings, which completely surprised everyone. They were all deceived by Shaoxin's cute and chubby appearance. They would never have thought that a street vendor selling jelly beans would be a strong soul sage point, and the soul sage who appeared at the door of Shrek naturally made these people think that this soul sage must be inextricably linked with Shrek Academy. Maybe he is the teacher of Shrek Academy. As they thought of this, their eyes became extremely hot, especially those candidates who had already stood in line and wanted to apply, and they had infinite yearning for Shrek Academy. They looked at Shaoxin with a big head and a thick neck with fiery eyes. The corners of Shaoxin's mouth were raised, and the effect of his pretense had been achieved. So he used his soul skills. As for the number of soul skills, he didn't know, because he didn't shout out. After using this soul skill, dense and colorful jelly beans appeared around him, and these jelly beans were almost the same as the ones he sold. But this is the use of his soul skills, and it must not be as simple as the jelly beans he sells. Under his control, these jelly beans all flew towards the heart-shaped door-to-door. Cold sweat gradually broke out on the face of Flender, who was watching from the sidelines, because only he knew how he cut corners, and of course he knew what Shaoxin was going to do, because as a soul saint, he could of course hear Oscar's soft voice language. Shaoxin wanted to use his jelly beans to block up all the places where the door was exposed to paint, so as to make the door more warm and comfortable. If he didn't cut corners, of course he would be very willing, but he did. He deducted more than half of the money, so he has no confidence in the quality of this big arch. But now he has no other choice. He can only silently pray in his heart that the gate will be stronger, and that he, the dean, will not lose the chain. Shaoxin's jelly beans have turned into weird shapes one after another. If you look carefully at these weird shapes, you will see that they are exactly the same as the place where the door is exposed. There were streaks of sweat on Shaoxin's chubby face, and his face was also very solemn because of the high intensity control. Even he, the soul sage, felt a little too much. After the last piece of graphics was successfully condensed, all these wonderful shapes were attached to the big arch. At this moment, Flender's heart twitched. He was really afraid that the door wouldn't be able to withstand Shaoxin's torture. However, as if the door had heard his prayers, it held the weight of these jelly beans firmly and did not appear to be crushed. Flender was so happy that his dean's face was finally saved. But while he was happy, Shaoxin walked up to him and stretched out his hand. "Take it." Flender asked blankly. What? Take the money." Shaoxin said seriously. Flender continued to ask with a blank face. "What kind of money?" "Take the money for decorating the gate. Oscar told me to ask you for money," Shaoxin said firmly. Flender shouted excitedly. "Ask me for money? He asked you to decorate the gate. You volunteered to decorate the gate. I didn't ask you to decorate the gate. You are the one who decorated the gate, not him. You don't care about him. For the money to decorate the gate, what money do you want from me?" Flender originally thought that Shaoxin would be fooled by him for saying such a lot of tongue twisters, and he would definitely think what he said was very correct. However, Shaoxin replied the moment he finished forcing him, "Because you are the dean of Shrek Academy, and because the patron father said he gave you all the money." Flender was left speechless by Shaoxin. Shaoxin was very right. He is the dean and has the responsibility and obligation to pay. Woo woo woo. So the two of them began to study the question of how much to pay for the decoration. The two of them are very lively here, and Oscar and Xiao Wu, who are the father and mother of the funder, are eating watermelon in the old place. No one dared to occupy this place between the two of them, because as long as someone occupied this place, that person would definitely be driven away by others. Last time, there was a couple who occupied this place, planning to kiss me and me sweetly here, but in the next moment, a dark red stick appeared in front of them. This stick is of course Li Yusang's dragon pattern stick. Although he has a grudge against Oscar and Xiao Wu for grabbing his watermelon, it is nothing compared to how much he loves these two children. Let alone someone bullying the two of them. Even if someone robbed them of their positions, that would definitely not work. Oscar and Xiao Wu were eating watermelon, and Oscar's face also released a ruddy brilliance, because his task has just been completed. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the kitchenware clue task, replacing Shrek's door with a rainbow door full of love. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a clue to the legendary kitchen utensils. Oscar couldn't wait to order the system to open this clue. Ding. The opening is complete. Please check the host yourself. Oscar was stunned when he saw this clue. This clue is presented with a map, which is the map of the entire Douluo continent. And on this map, there is a triangular mark, which is actually the junction of the Heaven Dao Empire and the Star Luo Empire. Oscar is also very familiar with this place, because this place belongs to the novice city of Douluo continent, and this place is exactly Notting City. Some people may not feel very familiar with the name of Notting City, but the name of Notting College must be familiar. This is the place where Xiao met Master Senpao, and of course it was also the place where he began to coax Xiao Wu. Oscar also felt very curious why there are legendary kitchen utensils in Notting City. This second piece of kitchen equipment can't be at Notting College, can it? Of course, even if the legendary kitchen utensils were not in Notting College, he would still go to Notting College, because he was going to meet Xiao Sanson, and he wanted to take Xiao Wu with him. He wouldn't it be interesting to find a mistress to play with? Ask for a subscription, ask for a monthly ticket, ask for a recommendation ticket. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Xiao Wu, let 039's go on honeymoon. It's imminent for Oscar to go to Notting City because he doesn't know what this god level kitchen utensil is. What if the second kitchen utensil is also like a dragon pattern griddle, covered with rust, and what if someone treats it as a waste product? Is it broken? Or if it was used by that wandering chef as an ordinary kitchen utensil, and he only stayed in Soto City for a short period of time, then he really couldn't come back from crying. So Oscar decided to set off as soon as possible. Anyway, Shrek Academy now has so many teachers, so it is not necessary to use him and Xiao Wu as the examiners of the 4th level. So Oscar discussed with Xiao Wu first. Xiao Wu, the Douluo continent is so big, Big Brother wants to show you there. Hehe, okay, Big Brother goes there. Xiao Wu will go there. Xiao Wu will not leave Big Brother. Xiao Wu smiled happily. Xiao Wu is of course very willing. After all, she lived in Soto City after entering the human world. She is very curious about the outside world, especially with her big brother Oscar by her side willing. Xiao Wu is so good, Oscar said affectionately. Xiao Wu was so excited that her 2 rabbit ears were fluttering. She looked very cute. She shook Oscar's arm coquettishly, raised her head and said expectantly, Xiao Wu is going on honeymoon with Big Brother. Big Brother, let's go now. Seeing Xiao Wu's anxious look, Oscar was even more delighted. Especially when Xiao Wu said the word honeymoon. It made his little heart itch. I like the adjective honeymoon very much. Hehe, but before they left, they still wanted to report. Oscar held Xiao Wu's hand and came in front of Shrek Dean Flender. Oscar went straight to the point and said to him concisely, Uncle Four-Eyed, I want to take Xiao Wu on a honeymoon and go out to practice and practice. Flender was very surprised when he heard Oscar's words. This kid actually wanted to take his daughter-in-law on honeymoon. By the way, does this kid know what a honeymoon is? They went on their honeymoon at such a young age, and I haven't had my honeymoon yet at such an old age. If they were older and went on a honeymoon, maybe I could hold a grandson, but they are struggling to make a liquid now. I don't know if the two of them have tried it. Ahem. Flender withdrew his messy thoughts, changed his indifferent expression before, and asked seriously, "Are you too serious?" Oscar replied very seriously, "Well, my soul power has broken through to level, and I need to add a third soul ring. This time I want to use my own strength to hunt and kill soul beasts." Fuck level. Flender could only use these two words to describe his excitement. This brat actually said that he has already broken through to level. This kid's upgrade speed is really faster than my flying speed. He is only 9 years old and already at level. If he adds another soul ring, he will be a strong soul master. Hunzun can be alone on the Douluo continent. This little brat is really a surprise for him. Oscar said very stinkingly, "Well, Xiao and I broke through while hugging each other yesterday, and I don't know what happened." After hearing this, Flender rolled his eyes, revealing a lot of white eyes. He quickly stretched out his hand and pinched his own person to ensure that he would not faint. Flender thought to himself, this little brat will definitely die if he doesn't pretend to be aggressive. He broke through while hugging him. If he broke through so easily, then you can lend me Xiao to hug him for a while. Of course, he was joking about this idea. As Oscar's godfather, how could he spy on his daughter-in-law? Compared with the little Lalita, he still likes Yuji, who is as pungent as Liu Erlong, and the most important thing is that he likes someone who is tolerant and big. Especially using his hard stubble to pierce his supple and fair skin will make him feel very irritated. Flender was thinking of this, and a red color appeared on his old thick face. He felt that his face was a little hot, and he quickly stretched out his hand and coughed his throat to cover up his embarrassment. Ahem, since you think so, I won't stop you. The reason why the teachers of the college didn't let you two go out to practice is because you two are too young. Now that you have the idea of going out to practice, this makes me feel very relieved. In this case, you can leave tomorrow." As he spoke, Flender's eyes were a little moist. Oscar and Xiao were like his children. He was really reluctant to hear that they were going out to practice. Oscar couldn't bear to see him like this, so he said, "4-eyed uncle, the so-called long-term pain is worse than short-term pain. Xiao and I should leave now, so as not to save those old men who are as urgent as you tomorrow. It seems that you look really ugly like this." "That's right, Uncle 4-eyed, you are so ugly," Xiao also said with disgust. The corners of Flender's mouth twitched. These two brats were going to get mad at me once before they left. I was really mad at me. He shouted angrily, "Get out! Get out! Get out as far as possible! Don't come back!" The effect of his yell was huge. That is, the customers who were choosing products in front of his booth were all scared away by his yell. As for the teachers, who were doing side jobs here, Flender yelled and all focused their eyes on him. Flender was very satisfied with the effect at this time, and he shouted again, "Oscar wants to take Xiao to elope. Stop them." So all the teachers put down their business, released their soul power and soul rings, and rushed in the direction of Oscar and Xiao. "Fuck, I'll go," Oscar and Xiao said in horror. Oscar was very helpless with Flender's actions. Didn't he agree not to tell them? And what does elopement mean? We are obviously on a honeymoon. Okay. So Oscar released little Kaylin in an instant, and the moment little Kaylin appeared, its body became more than 20 meters long. Oscar and Xiao quickly rode onto Xiao Kaylin's body. Inherent. Little Kaylin's body began to drive. Its speed was really too fast. Compared with the crawling speed of the turtles of these teachers, its speed was like a rabbit, and it slammed them into nothingness. And after they disappeared, the teachers were also silent one by one, their eyes fixed on the direction they left. Gradually, these teachers found that their eyes seemed to have entered the sand grains at the same time. As a breeze blew by, their eyes left 2 lines of tears. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a monthly ticket. Ask for a recommendation ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 110. Oscar and Xiao stay at the Xinghua Mood Hotel. Noting City, a city on the border of the Heaven Dao Empire. Although it is not a large city, but because it is very close to the border, the walls here are extraordinarily thick. Because Oscar and Xiaowu rode Little Kaylin, it only took them more than half a day to arrive in Notting City. Of course, when they approached Notting City, they had to rely on walking. If they kept riding Little Kaylin to the city, it would definitely cause unpredictable consequences. Even though Little Kaylin is very powerful, but as a border city, Notting City's defense force will definitely not be inferior, and it will even be stronger. Oscar and Xiaowu came to the gate of Notting City hand in hand. After passing the inspection of the guards, they entered Notting City. This Notting City is really far behind Soto City. You don't need to look at anything else, just look at the underground roads. The ground is full of potholes, and not smooth at all. Moreover, the road is narrow, so it is not an exaggeration to say that this road is a tree-lined path, but there are busy crowds of people on this tree-lined path. Make this potholed road look pitch black. Oscar concluded with a slight sigh. Oh, I didn't expect that the tree-lined alleys in Notting City would become so dark after being devastated by heavy traffic. Xiaowu also frowned slightly, pointing to the storefronts on both sides and said, "Big brother, the environment in Notting City is really terrible. There are not even white, tender, big, and juicy crispy tiger buns." Oscar said embarrassingly, "Xiaowu, not all cities will have crispy tiger buns, like this Notting City. Although there is no crispy tiger buns here, but you can see that the people here are very peaceful." That's right. Xiaowu also feels that the people here are no different from those in Soto City. So what is the reason for this? Xiaowu nodded and asked. Oscar replied very seriously, because they know that their precious and peaceful life is hard won. Even if there is even the slightest change in the two empires, then they, as people living on the frontier, will inevitably bear the brunt and suffer a lot. Of course, the most important thing is that their big buns are enough to eat. Xiaowu tilted her head and blinked her lovely big eyes and asked suspiciously, "Their buns are enough? Brother, why do they have enough buns?" Oscar smiled and explained to Xiaowu, "Because there are fewer wolves in Notting City, but more meat." What Oscar said was naturally correct, as the border city of Heavendao Empire and Star Luo Empire, Notting City naturally had more boys and girls. As long as the men are old enough to go to war, the old and the weak, women and children are left behind, and there are naturally more women. Even if a woman is captured by the enemy country, she will not be killed. As for what to do if she stays, of course, one enemy will fight 100. As a result, a phenomenon of yin prosperity and yang decline has been created in Notting City. Of course, this yin prosperity and yang decline does not refer to status, but the ratio of male to female. Just like the current Notting City, most of Oscar and Xiaowu's surroundings are women, but the dress of these women is really very different from the women in Soto City. The women here rarely wear gold and silver, they all wear relatively simple clothes. After listening to Oscar's narration, Xiaowu naturally understood what Oscar meant, because usually when her big brother played tricks on her, he would always open his mouth and say to her with a smirk, "The big bad wolf is here to eat meat." Meat. Oscar, however, did not unleash his kitchen utensil spirit right away to find the location of the second kitchen utensil, because there were so many people on the street, he had to find a place where no one could see him. Oscar said to Xiaowu next to him, "Xiaowu, let's find a hotel to stay in first." Okay. Big brother, Xiaowu wants to live in a double room," Xiaowu said shyly with her head lowered. Oscar sent out Brother Pig's smile. Hey, after searching, they came to the XC area of Notting City, where there is a very unique hotel. This hotel is only 2 floors high, and it doesn't look like a big one, but the exterior decoration of this hotel is very special. The architectural style of the entire hotel is like a pink apricot flower, and there is a very unique plaque at the entrance of the hotel, which reads, "Apricot Blossom Emotional Hotel." Xiaowu pointed to the hotel and said, "Big brother, this hotel is so unique. Let's stay here." When Oscar saw the name of this hotel, he knew that this hotel must be a very dishonest hotel. The so-called apricot flower, that is bound to love cheating. The so-called sentimental, that is bound to flirt. So this Xinghua Emotional Hotel is definitely the kind of hotel with special services inside. But since Xiaowu said he wanted to live here, of course he would not refuse. He likes this hotel the most. They walked into the hotel, and before they could look at the interior decoration of the hotel, they felt a strong and pungent smell coming to their nostrils. This smell has surpassed the category of fragrance. Too much. It was this smell that made Xiao Wu frown slightly, but Oscar had a feeling of going to the club in his previous life. Of course, his friend dragged him there that time, and he was fed too much before he could do anything. He doesn't know what to do to him. The decoration of this hotel is also a combination of pink and red, and the lights inside are very dim. It is not an exaggeration to say that the lights are flirtatious. Oscar dragged Xiao Wu to the front desk and said to the waiter at the front desk, "Please open a room for us." The waiter's eyes switched back and forth between Oscar and Xiao Wu, and finally he nodded happily and said with a smile, "Sir, congratulations on being the 888th partner of our hotel since the opening of the hotel, so everything you have done in this restaurant consumption does not need to spend money." Oscar and Xiao Wu felt extremely happy about this. Their luck was really great. It doesn't cost money to stay in a hotel. Although they are rich now, of course they won't refuse such a fun thing. So the waiter went through the formalities, and while they were waiting, 2 more couples arrived. But what these 2 couples have in common is that the man is very old and fat, but the woman looks very young, only in her 20s, and she is also very thin. Oscar knew their relationship without guessing. This was definitely not the relationship between a good pig and a good cabbage, but the relationship between a porcupine and a rotten cabbage. During this period, nothing unpleasant happened, and Oscar and Xiao Wu checked into the guest room smoothly. There is a special atmosphere in this room, and the atmosphere is particularly flirtatious. The most important thing is that there are various small tools and small objects hanging on a large wall. Oscar said to the wall that "I don't know these things. I really don't know what these things are for. Please subscribe." End of this chapter. Chapter 111 The Seductive Xiao Wu. Oscar stared at those few things. He couldn't help fantasizing. There was a happy smile on the corner of his mouth, and there was a trace of abnormality in this smile, and the beautiful Xiao Wu was standing in front of him. However, Xiao Wu's dress in his fantasy is not the same as usual. Usually Xiao Wu is very cute, but now Xiao Wu is extremely attractive, and her height has also become taller, which is different from her grown up. Xiao Wu is generally the same, tall and enchanting. I saw that the 2 upright rabbit ears on Xiao Wu's head also turned black, and one of them was in a drooping state, which looked very attractive, and her straight and slender legs were also worn. Putting on black lace high socks, it looks like liquid socks, but it is more real than liquid socks. It really makes people want to stop. Her seductive figure was also put on a sexy black off-the-shoulder tube top corset. Under the outline of this corset, her protruding figure was fully displayed. On one of her fang feet is a pointed high-heeled shoe, while the other is half clothed and half exposed. Xiao Wu's current appearance is so beautiful and attractive. Big brother, big brother? Xiao Wu's crisp voice broke Oscar's wonderful illusion. Xiao Wu was looking at Oscar, who was drooling at the corner of her mouth at this time. She was very curious what her big brother was thinking, and it turned out like this. Oscar came back to his senses and said with a confused look, "Ah, Xiao Wu, what did you say?" Looking at Oscar's silly look, Xiao Wu couldn't help laughing and said, "Hee big brother, you are so stupid looking like this. Your mouth is drooling. Did you think of something? Have you eaten? Come, Xiao Wu will clean it for you." Xiao Wu picked up her handkerchief and gently wiped the corner of Oscar's mouth. Oscar was still engrossed in the illusion just now. He nodded and said, "MMM. Big brother really thought of something delicious just now." Xiao Wu rubbed her flat belly and said, "Xiao Wu's stomach is hungry too. Brother, what delicious food do you think of? What do we want to eat?" "I'm thinking of Xiao Wu. Big brother wants to eat Xiao Wu," Oscar said, grabbing Xiao Wu's chubby face. Hee big brother will deceive Xiao Wu, and Xiao Wu is not delicious. Xiao Wu pointed her finger at her face and laughed. Oscar leaned close to Xiao Wu's ear and whispered softly. After hearing this, Xiao Wu's pink face immediately turned rosy, like a freshly ripened peach. She beat Oscar's chest with her fists and said, "Big brother, how are you doing?" There was a sound of fighting in the room, and while they were resting, there was a knock on the door. At this moment, the waiter also delivered the meal. Since he had already lived in the hotel, Oscar couldn't cook for himself. Even if it's not as delicious as his cooking, you still have to make do with the noodles, and it's all free. Of course you need to order more good and expensive ones. The food in this Xinghua emotional hotel is still very good, especially the very emotional wine red drink. After Xiao Wu was full, Oscar just poured her a glass, and she fell down in a daze. Oscar picked up Xiao Wu and put her on the bed, and he was about to ask the waiter to clean up the dining table. But at this moment, Xiao Wu's hand grabbed Oscar's clothes. Xiao Wu's face was extraordinarily rosy now. Xiao Wu's big eyes were full of longing and said, "Big brother, don't go." Xiao Wu is still hungry. Oscar didn't care about the dining table and kitchen utensils, and he turned into a hungry wolf in a hurry, wailing. After a few minutes of busy work, Xiao Wu fell asleep softly, and Oscar stood at the window in a daze. His eyes were bloodshot. He was very excited now, and he still couldn't calm down. Because just now he was very confused about this, because he didn't know what to do. He was swinging left and right in the choice of forward and backward. In the end, he still chose to retreat, and he could only stand at the window to feel the breeze and calm down his excited mood. But the smell and anger in the room were too flirtatious, and the breeze not only failed to calm his mood, but fueled his ambition. Oscar hurriedly rushed into the bathroom and began to wash away his manic mood. After Oscar was rinsed with cold water, he finally calmed down his agitation. He returned to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and looked at Xiao Wu, who was sleeping soundly. He felt very uncomfortable and thought, the days ahead will be really difficult. Oscar came to the living room. He stretched out his hand and unleashed his dragon martial soul. The legendary kitchen utensils all have mutual induction. Just like after he completed the kitchen utensil clue task before, he only had a rough location to determine the detailed position of the second piece of kitchen utensils. The mutual induction between god level kitchen utensils is still required. And after he released the dragon martial soul, a flat map appeared in his eyes. This map is the panoramic map of Notting City, and two small red dots are flashing on the map. And the location of the little red dots is very close. At a glance, you can find these two little red dots, which are actually flashing in the XC area of Notting City. And one of the little red dots is at the Xinghua Mode Hotel, where he is staying, and the place marked by the other little red dot is actually at the gate of Notting College. This made Oscar feel curious. How could this kitchen utensils be at the guard of Notting College, if it is reasonable in the college? After all, it is a normal thing to use kitchen utensils for cooking, but isn't it a joke at the guard's place now? Could it be that the guard at the door is using the kitchen utensils for something else? Fuck, don't be pot like kitchen utensils. And when he was terrified, he found that the kitchen utensils moved. On that map, a small red dot moved flickeringly, and this trajectory is moving into the academy, which makes Oscar even more confused. What is the situation? What the hell is this kitchen utensil? Although Oscar was eager to know what this kitchen utensil was, since this kitchen utensil hadn't left Notting College, it was fine. And now it was very late. Xiao Wu also lay down and fell asleep. It was impossible for him to leave Xiao Wu here alone. He called the waiter up and asked the waiter about the recent situation of Notting College and whether it had started enrolling students. And what the waiter said made him feel very happy, because the waiter said that Notting College would only start accepting students for the report tomorrow. This made Oscar very happy, because he could see Tang Xiaozhen tomorrow. As for why it is tomorrow, as old Jack said, they don't even have money to stay in the hotel. After old Jack sent Tang San in, he had to run away and couldn't stay longer at all. And there is only one reason for this result, and that is because they are too poor. So poor. Please subscribe. Remember to send some recommendation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 112. One flavor of milk. Go to Notting College. Oscar was very much looking forward to seeing Xiao Samson tomorrow. He quietly came to the soft bed for two people, and he stretched out his arms to hug Xiao Wu, who was curled up into a ball. So he hugged Xiao Wu until the early morning, and then gradually fell asleep. Early the next morning, Xiao Wu gradually woke up. She frowned slightly, feeling in a daze that something was resting on her. She opened her blurry eyes and looked back, and she found that Oscar was still asleep. So she looked down. She was very puzzled, because she found that there seemed to be something in her elder brother's pocket. In order to sleep more soundly, she decided to take that thing out. so she reached out her little hand to Oscar's trouser pocket. Xiao Wu blinked her eyes, a little confused. Why did the big brother kick it in his pocket? So she pushed Oscar, who was soundly asleep, and shouted, big brother, wake up. Oscar is dreaming of spring with Xiao Wu. The progress has come to the point. As long as you get a little closer, you can exercise vigorously. But just at this moment, Oscar felt the world spinning for a while, like an earthquake. He woke up suddenly, and opened his eyes. He opened his eyes, and saw Xiao Wu's tender cheeks, and he asked in a daze, what's wrong with Xiao Wu? Did something happen? Xiao Wu exerted a little force on her little hand, and said worriedly, big brother, why are you keeping a whip in your pocket? Xiao Wu is feeling uncomfortable. Oscar blinked his eyes and explained, it wasn't that the four-eyed Flender broke the chubby Mahanjan last time. I thought this one was pretty good, so I just took one. Oh big brother, quickly take it out. It has delayed Xiao Wu's sleep. Xiao Wu said with her lips curled up. Oscar quickly threw the little whip aside and said, okay, it's still early. Xiao Wu, let's continue to sleep. Oscar and Xiao Wu took a nap again. Of course Xiao Wu slept soundly, but Oscar didn't fall asleep at all, because all he could think about was the dream he dreamed last night. It was almost noon before they got dressed and had breakfast, which consisted of milk and bread. Xiao Wu took a sip of milk, licked the milk stains dripping from her mouth so cutely, and said, millimeters big brother, it's thick, it tastes the same. Oscar was eating bread, and almost choked upon hearing these words. Fortunately, there were no outsiders around, and if there were outsiders, they would definitely be misunderstood. Xiao Wu was actually saying that the milk they drink now tastes the same as the milk they drink at home. After breakfast, they went for a stroll in the streets of Notting City. They always wanted to take a stroll here after they came here. And in the afternoon, they went to Notting College. From a distance, they saw a tall arch, which was 20 meters wide and more than 10 meters high. The entire gate was made of hard rock, and there were 2 black iron gates underneath. Through the iron gate, you can clearly see the inside. A smooth avenue leads directly to the interior of the college, with tall trees on both sides. And in the middle of the arch, there are 4 characters, Notting College. Compared with the previous gate of Shrek Academy, this gate is simply much stronger, and it looks particularly magnificent and imposing. Oscar and Xiao Wu approached, but the youth at the gate of the academy stopped them. Stop, what are you two doing? The doorman shouted in a particularly draggy manner. Now Oscar has a very strong understanding of the guards at Notting College, and they should be in a bad mood if they don't make things difficult. Xiao Wu's temper is only so gentle towards Oscar. If it is someone else, she will look like a big sister. And now the guard dared to yell at them in such a gesture. How could she bear it? She pinched her waist and said angrily, we do what we like. Don't mind your business. The guard saw that Xiao Wu was so arrogant, and they were dressed so proudly, so he didn't refute anymore. If the 2 of them were children of that family, wouldn't he end badly? He must have the capital to be so arrogant, so he changed his aggressive attitude just now, slowed down his tone, and said softly to the arrogant Xiao Wu, excuse me, are you 2 here to sign up at Notting College? Xiao Wu was about to answer no, but Oscar stepped forward and said first, that's right, we are here to sign up. The doorman said with a smile, then both of you, please show me proof materials. Proof? Oscar asked. That's right. It's the materials you came to sign up for. The guard patiently explained. Oscar shook his head and said, we don't have any proof materials, but we have this. Oscar and Xiao Wu released their soul power in an instant, and 2 powerful waves of soul power were released suddenly. The door guard in front of them was stunned. Although the door guard couldn't feel the level of soul power of Oscar and Xiao Wu, he knew that to have such a strong fluctuation of soul power at their age must be a genius. And their clothes and demeanor look like they are not children of ordinary people. They are probably the young master and young lady of a wealthy family or a certain family. The guard suddenly showed a brighter smile than before and said, my name is Xiao Gao. The 2 young masters and young ladies will be here at Notting College in the future. Please tell me if you have anything to do. By the way, did someone named Tang-san come here today? Oscar asked Xiao Gao. Tang-san. Young master, are you talking about that very powerful kid? He just beat up my brother and was later brought in by the master. The guard Aozhou thought for a while and said, "Your brother?" Oscar asked suspiciously. It turned out that he was not the guard who was beaten. It turned out that it was his brother who was beaten. Aozhou pointed to the guard over there and replied, "My brother's name is Aozhou, and he asked for sick leave to rest in the house." PFFT Oscar and Aozhou couldn't help laughing. They admire Aozhou's father very much. The name is so interesting. Oscar is very curious about one thing. The anti-inflammatory drug has been hit. Does he not need to take medicine anymore? Oscar said to Aozhou, "Then let's go and see him." Ah. Aozhou let out a cry of surprise. Oscar's sudden mention of visiting his brother would of course surprise him, because it was totally out of the ordinary. According to the normal sequence, he and Aozhou should go in to report now, but they actually wanted to visit his brother at the guard, which made Aozhou very grateful. "You see, I'm still a child of a big family. I just showed them my affection, and they wanted to do me a favor." Aozhou led the way with tears in his eyes. Oscar and Aozhou followed to the guard. Please subscribe. Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 113 Entering Notting College. Oscar and Aozhou came to the gatekeeper of Notting College. The room at the doorman's office was not that big, it was only one room, and the decoration inside was very simple. Just a table, 2 chairs, and of course 2 beds, and one of the beds was a individual's lay upright on it. The doorman Aozhou pointed to the bed and said, "This is my eldest brother Aozhou." After he was knocked down by the kid named Tang-san, he kept saying he was confused, so he asked for paid leave. Oscar looked at Aozhou who was lying flat on the bed, and found that he and this Aozhou looked exactly the same. There was no difference at all. Just by looking at the face, it was not because of the size that he could recognize who was the elder brother and who was the younger brother. Both of them are typical passers-by. It's just that one is standing and the other is lying down now. Oscar nodded slightly with his little hands behind his back, as if he was inspecting the academy leader. "Well, let him pay more attention to rest. You are working so hard in this small house." Aozhou was a little excited when he heard Oscar's words. The 2 brothers had guarded the guard for many years, but no one had ever said a word of hard work to them. Today, Oscar's sentence, "You have worked hard," immediately made his heart surge. His eyes blurred, and he looked like he was about to cry. The thunderous snoring broke Aozhou's agitated mood just now. His face was a little embarrassed, because this snoring was made by his elder brother Aozhou. People just said that it was hard work, but this guy actually snored so much. This is completely disrespectful to others. Fortunately, it wasn't the dean and the others who came to inspect the work. If they came to inspect the work, seeing this scene would definitely make the 2 brothers pack their bags and roll the ball. Aozhou scratched the back of his head, hiding his embarrassment. However, Oscar didn't look at him, but carefully looked around. He saw that there was no kitchen utensils for cooking in the whole guard, let alone the legendary kitchen utensils. But he saw a small pot, which was placed next to the bed, but it was just an ordinary small pot. This made Oscar feel relieved. Fortunately, it wasn't this pot. If it was this pot, he would definitely give up. Even if he was killed, he wouldn't use it. But what made him more curious was that the piece of kitchen utensils appeared here last night, and there were only the 2 of them at the guard. So the 2 of them must have seen the legendary piece of kitchen utensils last night. And the guard's office is so small, who can come here at night with nothing to spare, unless... He asked Aozhou very concerned. "You 2 have such a small place. How do you eat on weekdays?" Aozhou said helplessly, "Because there are only 2 brothers in the entire guard office. We 2 work shifts, and we have no time to cook or pick up meals, so our meals are sent to us by the academy." After hearing this, Oscar immediately confirmed his thoughts. The god level kitchen utensils must be used to deliver meals to them. The 2 Aozhou brothers have a great spectrum. To have to use someone to deliver meals with god level kitchen utensils. This fucking treatment is even more awesome than me. I have to get the kitchen utensils and make it myself. It seems that you must enter this Notting College. Oscar thought of this and left here. Before leaving, he said, "Goodbye, we will come back to visit you." Of course Xiao would not believe what Oscar said. Like them young masters and young ladies, it would be good if they didn't slap them in the face, and thinking that they could really visit them. It was really too beautiful to think. Oscar and Xiao continued to walk towards Notting College. Notting College is not as big as it looks on the outside. The college is mainly divided into several large areas, namely the teaching building area, the playground and the dormitory building on the east side of the playground. Although Notting College is a junior college for Soul Masters, it is much stricter than Shrek College. Even if a student's home is next to the college, he must live in the college and accept the unified management of the college. There are many teaching buildings in the teaching building area, but one of the tall buildings is the main teaching building. The Academic Affairs Office of Notting College is on the first floor of the main teaching building. On this floor, there are 3 teachers who are in charge of receiving new students. Of these 3 teachers, an old man in his 60s is the main person in charge, while the other 2 young people, who are less than 30 years old, are in charge as deputy. Because Notting College is a junior college, and it is still the first day of enrollment, there are not many new students who come to report, and now there is only one child going through the formalities. After the child left, Oscar and Xiao came to the registration table. Oscar said, "We are here to sign up." The old teacher looked up at them. He was very puzzled about the age of Oscar and Xiao, because the 2 of them are much taller, but he didn't ask too much. He said indifferently, "Please show me the certificate of Wuhandian." Oscar shook his head and said, "Teacher, we don't have the certificate of Wuhandian yet. Do you think there is any other way to prove it?" The old teacher's face was a little ugly, because he thought the 2 children were here to tease him, but he didn't lose his temper. After all, as a qualified teacher, one must maintain an amiable appearance. He suppressed the 108 beats of his heart, showing an amiable appearance, that he thought he was very amiable, and asked, "There is no proof of Wuhandian. No Wuhandian the certificates issued will not prove your potential to become Soul Masters. You should go back and ask the Hall of Spirits to obtain a certificate first." Oscar shook his head and said, "Teacher, we shouldn't have to go back." The old teacher is about 1.7 meters tall, but he feels that his blood pressure has reached 1.8 meters now. He patted the table angrily and shouted, "Without proof, it means that you have the potential to become Soul Masters. Don't you understand? You 2 hurry up. Didn't you see someone coming behind you?" Xiao saw that the old man was so fierce, so of course she quit. She kicked the table in front of her and yelled fiercely, "You poor old man is really ignorant. Whoever said that you can't prove us without a proof can become a Soul Master? Big Brother and I are Soul Masters. Do we need any proof?" While speaking, powerful soul power fluctuations were released from her and Oscar. This powerful fluctuation of soul power made the 3 teachers in front of them and the children standing in the row behind them dumbfounded. Especially these 3 teachers. They were surprised that this soul power was so strong that they couldn't accept it. The 2 young Soul Masters whispered, "Director Su, if we feel right, the fluctuations in the soul power of the 2 of them have already." Please subscribe. End of this chapter. Chapter 114 Xiao, I want to be the boss of Notting College. Shut up. The old Director Su hurriedly interrupted them. Director Su's past 60 years have not been in vain. After he felt the fluctuations in the soul power of Oscar and Xiao, his mood changed rapidly. He changed from being surprised at the beginning to being horrified in an instant. If he became a Soul Master at the age of the 2 of them, he still belongs to the category of genius. But the soul power of the 2 of them is actually close to that of the other 2 teachers, and those 2 teachers are great Soul Masters of more than 20 levels. This also means that their soul power level is about to approach that of great Soul Masters. They are still geniuses here and there. This is a peerless of Douluo. It's really unbelievable that these 2 monsters would come to Notting Junior College to enroll. Director Su suddenly thought, with the aptitude of these 2 children, even higher level colleges will grab and fight. Since they have such high aptitude, they must belong to a big family, and they are also direct. The 2 children, a boy and a girl, came to Notting Junior College, and they must have sneaked out to experience life. This is the luck of Notting College. This is a blessing of Notting College. Director Su changed his annoyed expression when he slapped the table before, and he said with a smirk, "Ha ha ha, I'm really blind." I just said something wrong. Don't mind me. Oscar and Xiao Wu looked at the old man Su, who seemed to have changed into a different person, and were speechless. It seemed that, no matter what they did, they had to use their strength to speak. Even reporting a report can make people look down. Director Su took out 2 pieces of paper under the table and said, "Haha, you two just fill out this form and that's it." Oscar looked at the report form, on which was written a series of real blanks such as real name, blank real gender, blank real age, blank, etc. Especially in the last line, "Is it because I washed my face well?" If you haven't washed your face well, please go to the teacher on the left, and if you wash your face well, please go to the teacher on the right. Oscar said that the person who designed this report form is really talented. After he and Xiao Wu finished filling out the form, they handed it over to the young teacher on the right. Of course, the real martial soul, real soul power level, and real home address were not written on it. These teachers turned their heads away, as if they didn't see it. Director Su handed the school uniforms to Oscar and Xiao Wu with his own hands, and he smiled again and said, "This is your school uniform. You can go wherever you want. No one here will care about you." Oscar took the school uniform, and he directly released the soul power to put the school uniform into the belt of the little black snake. After Director Su saw it, he was even more sure that they were children of a big family. Such a young child has a soul tool. Could this be the young master of a big family? Oscar and Xiao Wu walked out of the academic affairs office, but did not leave in a hurry, but stood at the door to listen to what the next few teachers would say. Oscar remembered that these teachers were very gossip. He didn't want others to speak ill of him. Director Su's serious voice came out, "Neither of you can tell what happened today. You two are busy first. I will report to the dean." The 2 teachers nodded. The 2 of them didn't talk much, because they knew that the consequences of talking too much would definitely not be good. After Director Su left, they stared straight at the little boy, who had been waiting in line for a long time. The little boy blinked, and he said with fear, "Old teacher, I will report. I don't have the certificate of Wuhandian either. There is no certificate from the spirit hall. What does it matter? Please release your soul power." The 2 teachers said in a pleasant and amiable manner. The little boy said tremblingly, "Teacher, my soul power is level 7. Then there was no more. Oscar and Xiao Wu couldn't hear any sound from inside. The 2 of them did not continue to stay, because whether the child could successfully enter Notting College had nothing to do with them. "Little boy, I'll go to you." Oscar and Xiao Wu walked towards the dormitory building. After all, they were going to stay here for a few days, and they would not leave without god-level kitchen utensils. As for why they go to the first house now, because Xiao Gao told them that among the students of Notting College, their distant cousin Xiao Chenyu is the boss. And since they came to Notting College, of course no one else is allowed to be the boss. The boss must belong to Xiao Wu. They came to the door of the first dormitory, that is, the door of the 6th grade students' dormitory. Before they could enter, a group of students came out of the dormitory. These students were all wearing the uniforms issued by Notting College, and these students walked together in an orderly manner without chaos. Especially for the student who was walking in front. Other students did not dare to walk side by side with him. This student was tall and straight. Although his face was still childish, he already looked like an adult. Although he was not handsome, he had a special temperament. It's just that this temperament is not very noble. On the contrary, he is a bit ruffian, exuding an air of foolishness all over his body. Especially there is a piece of dog's tail hanging from the corner of his mouth. This student is none other than Xiao Chenyu, the boss of Notting College. Xiao Chenyu looked at Oscar and Xiao Wu, who were walking towards him, with some curiosity, because Oscar and Xiao Wu's auras were too special, completely different from the students of their academy. They both exuded a full of nobility. Of course, if he also wears gold and silver, he can also exude this kind of nobility. Xiao Chenyu felt that their temperament was good. Of course he would not be so stupid as to find fault. He asked with a smile, "Who are you two here looking for?" His younger brothers looked at their boss strangely. Is this still their boss? The boss actually confessed to his peers. "Looking for you." Oscar looked at him with a smile and said. Xiao Chenyu asked solemnly, "Looking for me? What's the matter for you to come looking for me?" "I want to be the boss of Notting College." Xiao Wu stepped forward and said while pinching her waist. Xiao Wu's appearance is so beautiful and cute. No matter what expressions and movements she makes, it will make people feel very cute. When these students saw Xiao Wu, their eyes glowed with longing. Not to mention Xiao Wu's current movements are so cute. They were very excited. They wanted Xiao Wu to be the boss, because only in this way would they have the opportunity to keep in touch with Xiao Wu. So, they shouted neatly, "Boss." Xiao Chenai was very speechless. These younger brothers gave him too much face. Am I right here? As for scaring me? He turned his head and said quickly, free from courtesy. But he found that these younger brothers ignored him, but looked at the little girl with lewd eyes. This made him very wronged. As my little brother, can you rebel faster? Please subscribe. End of this chapter. Chapter 115 Miss Wu and brother-in-law Oscar. Xiao Chenai was very angry at the actions of his group of younger brothers. Could it be that the grass on the wall is falling with the wind? Those who value sex over friends are talking about this group, right? For Xiao Chenai to become the boss of Notting College, he must not be a reckless person. Although he looks like a local hooligan, his heart is delicate. Even his little brothers could see that Oscar and Xiao Wu were not ordinary people. How could he, the boss, not see it? If Oscar and Xiao Wu asked him to help, he would definitely help with a smile. But Xiao Wu bluntly said that he wanted to take the position of his boss, which really offended him a bit. People are still angry, and Xiao Chenai is no exception. Xiao Chenai pointed at Xiao Wu and shouted angrily, "You little girl, how dare you try to take my boss position, and you don't even ask who I am." Xiao Chenai? Xiao Chenai, walk sideways on Notting City Road. No one dares to control me, let alone in the academy. Xiao Wu said impatiently, you talk a lot of nonsense. Don't say you walk sideways on the street. Even if you jump around, no one cares about you. Who are you? Aren't you the distant place of Xiao Yanao and Xiao Gao? Cousin. Xiao Chenai blinked his eyes and asked questioningly, "Oh, how do you know?" Xiao Wu pinched her waist and said disdainfully, "You are still the boss like this. They are the two who ask me and the big brother to come to you and recognize you as the younger brother." Xiao Chenai's expression changed rapidly. His two cousins from afar were not ordinary people. The fact that the two of them have been guards at Notting College for these years is enough to prove their strength. The doorman of Notting College is not something that ordinary people can do. It can be said that this doorman has guarded the fate of all the new students, and they have mastered the fate of these years, so naturally they have reaped a lot of money. Of course, the leaders of the college have also gained a lot from it. Few. And his two distant cousins also treated him very well, otherwise he would not be able to secure the position of the boss of Notting College. And now that his cousin put them both in and asked him to give them the position of boss, it proved that these two children must not be ordinary people and definitely not someone they could provoke. So Xiao Chenai immediately threw away the anger just now, and he said with a flattering smile, "Hahaha, why didn't you say it earlier? This is really flooding the Dragon King temple, and the family doesn't recognize the family anymore from now on. The position of the boss of Notting College is yours." Xiao Wu said with a look of disgust, "HMPH, we don't want to be a family with you. Xiao Wu and Big Brother are a family." Xiao Wu said with a ruddy face as she put her arms around Oscar's arm. Oscar said to Xiao Chenai, "My name is Oscar, she is Xiao Wu. From now on Xiao Wu will be your boss. You can call her Miss Xiao Wu." Xiao Chenai waved his hands and said, "Liu Long, Lingfeng, you haven't seen Miss Xiao Wu yet. I've seen Miss Wu. Meet brother-in-law Oscar." Xiao Chenai led all the younger brothers to bow and salute. "Ah, good. Good. Good." This sentence of brother-in-law made Oscar feel very happy, and he immediately felt that his whole body had been sublimated. It feels good to have younger brothers, but the quality of this group of younger brothers is really not flattering. In other words, Xiao Chenai, Liu Long, and Ling Feng are soul masters, and the rest are not even soul masters. This is really a group of dead flowers and willows. It seems that I still have to find a genius to be my younger brother, but it is really difficult to find a genius as a junior at Notting College. But Notting College has a super talent right now. Oscar said to them, "Where did you guys want to go just now?" Zhao Chenyu said embarrassingly. Brother-in-law Oscar, you also know that today is the first day of freshmen at Notting College. We seniors must take care of it. Of course, Oscar understood what Zhao Chenyu said. It sounds good to care for the new students, but if it sounds bad, it's to give the new students a bad impression. Oscar would have absolutely hated this kind of thing before, but now he doesn't object at all. Instead he feels a little irritated. So he said to Zhao Wu, let's take care of the new students too. Okay, Zhao Wu is the boss of the academy. Of course I have to take care of it. Zhao Wu nodded and said obediently. Zhao Wu doesn't look like a big sister now. She is completely a little girl who depends on others. Comparing with Zhao Chenyu's arrogant appearance before, they are completely different people. Zhao Wu is so obedient. The younger brothers dare to look at them. They all raised their heads to look up at the sky and said one by one, the weather is really good today. There are white clouds for thousands of miles. Oscar was speechless to them, but he was indoors now, looking up at the sky. Of course, you can only see a white roof. If you're not leading the way, why are you in a daze? Oscar scolded. Hey. Zhao Chenyu ran in front of him disheartened and became a tour guide. There are only 7 dormitories for students in total, 6 of which correspond to 6 grades, and the last dormitory is of course the 7th dormitory for work-study students. In just a short while, Oscar and the others visited the 6 dormitories in front of them. All the students knew that their days at Notting College had changed. The position of the boss has become a little girl, but they are very dissatisfied with this new boss in their hearts. Why can such a delicate little girl be their boss? But under Zhao Chenyu's lust for power, they still didn't dare to refute, because they were usually afraid of being beaten. But anyone can see their unconvinced expressions. But Oscar and Zhao Wu turned a blind eye to this, because they were too troublesome. They couldn't just slap each other in the face. They arrived at Kish under the leadership of Zhao Chenyu, but there were a lot of people following them. There were hundreds of people. Of course these people just came to watch the fun, because they knew that the only person in this academy who dared to refute Zhao Chenyu was Wang Sheng from Kish. Compared with the previous rooms, the condition of Kish is really poor, but this place is very big, with a full square meters. There are 50 beds in this space, but there are only a dozen or so with futons. At this time, more than a dozen children were lining up to welcome them. As for why it is said to be welcomed in line, because they stand in the shape of an awl. The leader was tall and burly, and he stared straight at Zhao Chenyu. He was about the same height as Zhao Chenyu. He questioned, Zhao Chenyu, what do you mean by bringing so many people here? But Zhao Chenyu ignored him, but bent slightly, like a chief eunuch, pointed at Wang Sheng with one hand and said, Sister Zhao, brother-in-law Oscar, this is Wang Sheng, the head of Kish. Tiger. Please subscribe. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Oscar, Tang 3, you go and pull that bed over. Wang Sheng looked at Zhao Chenyu who looked like a servant in front of him, and felt very uncomfortable. How did this arrogant and domineering boss Zhao become like this? And who are the 2 children who are taller than him surrounded by him? Little bastard, this is the new boss of Notting College, Miss Dancing, and this is our brother-in-law. Zhao Chenyu introduced arrogantly. PFFTCs, you got a brother-in-law. Ha 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 ha. Hiccup. Wang Sheng laughed loudly. Laugh at you for being numb. Zhao Wu yelled, while pointing at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's smile gradually disappeared, and he said playfully, yo, it's still a little chili pepper. My favorite food is chili pepper. Let my brother taste what you taste like. To say that Wang Sheng is far behind Zhao Chenyu. His experience as a work-study student is simply incomparable with Zhao Chenyu. Just like when he saw Oscar and Zhao Wu's attires now, he didn't think of their special identities at all. Instead, he felt that Zhao Wu was very good looking and sweet at his taste. He wanted to taste what Zhao Wu was like. Oscar said to this Wang Sheng is really looking for death. Don't say that he can't pass this test. Even Zhao Wu can't let him go easily. It's just you. Xiao Wu said with a look of disdain. And the moment Xiao Wu said this, she moved. Xiao Wu's speed was incomparably fast, and she came in front of Wang Sheng in an instant. Everyone, including Wang Sheng himself, didn't feel how Xiao Wu came here. Xiao Wu raised her little Geo and kicked at Wang Sheng's precious place, but Wang Sheng didn't react at all. He felt his lower part was very painful. Can it not hurt? He couldn't resist even ordinary attacks, let alone the damage from Xiao Wu's soft skills, and Xiao Wu is now wearing high-heeled glass shoes with a pointed front. No need to think about it. He knew that his eggs were spread out. Of course it wasn't just that. Wang Sheng was kicked flying by Xiao Wu's kick. Out because the entire dormitory was huge. He encountered no obstacles on the way to fly away, and fell hard to the ground far away. And the posture in which he fell to the ground is a legendary buttocks in the sky, flat sand and falling geese. Of course, there is also a very popular nickname, that is, the dog eats rice fields. There was no sound in the whole room, only Wang Sheng's painful wailing echoed in the room just now, and now he has passed out from the pain. All the male compatriots present unconsciously tightened their legs, and their movements all became Wudang style. Even these younger brothers of the friendly army Xiao Chenyu stretched out their hands and joined the ranks of the Wudang faction. Xiao Wu's movements are really too fast, and of course this just proves her formidable strength. If anyone in Notting College could stand against Xiao Chenyu, it would be Wang Sheng, a work-study student. But with Wang Sheng's strength, he was beaten and disabled without the slightest reaction. Needless to say, how terrifying the new boss's strength is, and the students who were dissatisfied with Xiao Wu before were also very glad that they did not come out to be the boss chicken. These students all looked at Xiao Wu with terrified expressions, but there was only one with a very flat expression. He stood at the back of all the students inkish, because he was so small that he didn't attract the attention of others. His beady little eyes have been secretly looking at Xiao Wu, although he looks only 6 or 7 years old, but he is an adult in his heart. He thought eagerly in his heart, this little girl named Xiao Wu is so pretty, if only she could be my wife. Even sleeping with him now will be very comfortable. And her strength is also so strong. Even if I use Ghost Shadow, I can only do what she does. She and I are a natural match. Wouldn't it be nice for me to stay and fly with her on the Douluo continent? It's just that the pig next to her is in the way. And while he was secretly looking at Xiao Wu, Oscar was also looking at him. Maybe because he was staring at Xiao Wu with all his attention, he didn't feel that Oscar was also staring at him at all. The corners of Oscar's mouth raised slightly, and he thought to himself, we finally met. The eyes of this pure and clean adult showed a lustful light. He was definitely trying to get Xiao Wu's idea. It seems that I have to let him know that he is a disgrace. The corner of Oscar's mouth twitched and said, from now on, Xiao Wu is the boss of Notting College. Does anyone have any opinions? Those who have opinions can raise them. Of course, it's better to stand up. Everyone shook their heads quickly. Whoever dared to stand up at this time, wouldn't they be joking about their own life's happiness? Oscar expressed his satisfaction with this. Xiao Chenyu took the lead and shouted, greetings, Sister Xiao, and brother-in-law Oscar. Xiao Wu was very happy. She shook Oscar's arm excitedly and said, he big brother. Xiao Wu is now the boss. From now on, Xiao Wu will protect you. Oscar stretched out his hand and stroked Xiao Wu's head affectionately. Xiao Wu, you are the eldest sister of Notting College, so be careful. Yeah, Xiao Wu knows it. Xiao Wu said as obediently as a baby bunny. Tangsun standing behind the crowd saw this scene. For some reason, he felt as if something that belonged to him had been taken away, and his heart ached. This is of course his shamelessness. The moment he saw me, Xiao Wu, he was fascinated by her figure and appearance. He had already regarded Xiao Wu as his own person in his heart, but his person unexpectedly of course he couldn't stand being so intimate with others. He gritted his teeth secretly. When I become a soul master, I will take Xiao Wu from that pig's hand. Xiao Wu, I think the environment here is pretty good. Not only are the rooms big, but there are also very few people. Let's live here. Oscar said to Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu put her head on Oscar's shoulder. Her little face blushed and she said, okay, Xiao Wu is according to Big Brother. Tangsun felt like his heart had been cut. Then let's live there. Oscar said. pointing to the bed over there. Tangson followed his gaze and immediately cursed inwardly. I'll go to you. Oscar's relatives are omitted below. The reason why Tangson was so angry was because the bed Oscar pointed at was right next to his bed. Can such a fucking day be better? Oscar and Xiao Wu came to the bed hand in hand. Xiao Wu pouted and complained. This dormitory is full of single beds. Xiao Wu doesn't like single beds. Xiao Wu likes to sleep with Big Brother. Oscar said dotingly, Xiao Wu, you want to sleep with Big Brother? It's not easy. You, go pull that bed over and merge it together. Tangson stared at Oscar pointing at him very helplessly. Please subscribe. End of this chapter. Chapter 117 Xiao Chenaiu, Tang 3 ***. Seeing Tang San's astonished expression, Oscar felt very comfortable in his heart. If he dared to call Xiao Wu's attention, then prepare for my fierce whipping. What? Pull the bed over quickly, little brat. What about you? Why are you standing there in a daze? Oscar said impatiently and hastily. Tangson looked at Oscar, who scolded him in front of him, and felt great resentment in his heart. If you don't call these people next to you, why do you have to call me? Are your younger brothers just decorations? Although he had a lot of resentment in his heart, as an adult who came from time travel and knew how to play with embroidery needles, of course he would not show his resentment. But he didn't listen to Oscar's order, because Oscar is not a beautiful little sister. He is not Xiao Wu. If this is Xiao Wu's order, maybe he would still obey, but of course he is not willing to order him as a pig who clings to cabbage. In his eyes, Oscar is just a little white pig. He is nothing. He just relies on his glib skills to tease Xiao Wu's heart, making Xiao Wu unable to leave him and rely on him while he pretends to be a beautiful woman. Of course Tangson wouldn't be convinced by such a little white pig, so he didn't move at all, raised his head high, putting on an air of aloofness. Tang San's unwillingness to accept the battle made Xiao Chenaiu and the others feel very angry. Brother-in-law Oscar, as a man who is the eldest sister, his authority is one person above them. But it was such an authoritative person. His first order was not implemented successfully, which made Xiao Chenaiu feel ashamed, especially now that he had identified the two bosses. These two children, who were about the same age as him, were definitely not children from ordinary families, and he had already decided to be their lackey. As the number one dogleg, he must of course fulfill his obligations. He quickly came in front of Tang San, stretched out his foot, and kicked Tang San's mistress. While kicking, he was accompanied by swearing. Little boy, brother-in-law Oscar asked you to move the bed. Can't you hear me? I'm so stupid. If Xiao Chenaiu kicked this right, then Tangson might have the sun rise in the eastern Douluo continent. But although Tangson is not a soul master now, his strength is not bad. He retreated quickly, dodging Xiao Chenaiu's attack. Xiao Chenaiu felt very surprised when he saw that Tangson was able to dodge his attack. Although he didn't use his soul power, a new student was able to dodge his attack, which was beyond his expectation. Of course, other people also expressed their surprise. Is this freshman so strong? Boss, are you alright? All the work-study students in Kish asked Tangson nervously. Xiao Chenaiu thought suspiciously. Boss, isn't the boss of Kish Wangsheng? When did it become him? Did he defeat Wangsheng? You are the new boss of Kish. It seems that your strength is not bad. What's your name? Xiao Chenaiu asked condescendingly. Tang San. The moment Tangson said his name, he moved, and the other students clearly saw that he took a step at an extremely fast speed, and he actually appeared behind Xiao Chenaiu in an instant. He bent his right arm and hit Xiao Chenaiu's waist with an elbow. The effect he caused was unexpected. Of course it was beyond his own expectation, because he didn't knock Xiao Chenaiu away. But Xiao Chenaiu still yelled in pain. Hey, my old waist. Asterisk. You dare to hit me? Xiao Chenaiu turned around quickly and released his martial spirit, Wolf. A blue light appeared on his body. During the flickering of the blue light, the muscles of his body swelled rapidly. His eyes also turned a faint green. His arms were slowly raised. His fingers moved forward, and his nails also swelled into the shape of a claw. There is a white soul ring around him. Xiao Chenaiu realized that Tangson was not an ordinary work-study student. Of course he had to go all out, otherwise he might capsize in the gutter. Little Tang San, quickly release your martial spirit, so I won't bully you. Xiao Chenyu didn't attack Tang San quickly because he wanted to see what Tang San's martial spirit was, to know himself and the enemy. Only then can we survive 100 battles. You are not worthy, Tang San said disdainfully. These words directly ignited Xiao Chenyu's anger. He is an 11th level battle soul master, and this asterisk even said that he is not worthy. And his status is quite honorable. In Notting College he is the cousin of Xiao Yanao and Xiao Gao. In Notting City he is the son of the city lord. This woman actually says he is unworthy. Xiao Chenyu's anger had reached its peak. He pounced on Tang San like a hungry wolf. Xiao Chenyu's pounce was particularly domineering. A powerful soul power surrounded his body. This is an attack of absolute power, without the slightest skill. What is needed is to crush the opponent with absolute power. Facing Xiao Chenyu's berserk attack, Tang San did not dodge at all. The corner of his mouth crookedly smiled. Looking at him from the side, Oscar thought to himself, fuck twist-mouthed Tang San. Xiao Chenyu is going to be cold. Tang San transported Zuanshan Kung Fu to his palms and slowly pushed out his palms, facing Xiao Chenyu's wolf claws. In the eyes of others, Tang San was about to die, and Xiao Chenyu's wolf claws could easily crush rocks. But Tang San's little hands were white and tender, especially his index finger and middle finger were particularly pink and tender, as if they were often baptized. The hand behavior of these two people was in stark contrast. They both thought that Tang San's hand would be caught bloody in the next instant. But what happened next was not what they imagined. Tang San's hand collided with Xiao Chenyu's sharp claws. Not only was he not caught bloody, but he produced a strong momentum to resist Xiao Chenyu's attack. Xiao Chenyu reacted quickly and used his sharp claws to grab Tang San's hand forcefully, but he found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't grab it in. Tang San's hand was as hard as iron. But the moment Tang San held his hand against him, he quickly withdrew it and slammed into Xiao Chenyu with his not so tall body. Xiao Chenyu's tall body was hit by Tang San in such a way, it was knocked flying 3 meters away and fell firmly to the ground. Xiao Chenyu screamed again, ouch my old waist. It seems that I have to be more restrained in the future. However, Tang San didn't intend to let him go, because Xiao Chenyu was about to perform an operation on him just now. Since he was ruthless, he was Tang San's enemy, and of course he would fight an enemy with an eye for an eye. He quickly came to Xiao Chenyu's body, raised his toe-picking foot wearing a worn-out shoe, and stepped on it vigorously. Xiao Chenyu shouted in horror, brother-in-law, save me. When Tang San's feet were only centimeter away from Xiao Chenyu, Tang San's feet stopped in the air. Tang San looked to the side indifferently. He saw that the little white pig was raising one foot, resisting his footsteps. Please subscribe. Ask for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 118 Mission Reward. RYIN-039. S favor. The moment the 2 feet collided, a surge of soul power exploded. This scene was a domineering collision. Oscar smiled and said to Tang San, little Sanzi, enough is enough. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering a long-term side mission. Recognize Tang San as a younger brother. Mission reward. Yin's favor. This task made Oscar feel very helpless. I just wanted to tease Tang San for fun. As for selling his mother, is it really good to do this? And what's the use of his mother Yin's affection for me? His mother is still a piece of grass. Is a good feeling of grass useful for my wool? No matter what, I have to wait for Yin to have a physical body to be useful. Forget it. Don't think about it. Since I have a task to do, I won't think about letting Yin sit in my arms in front of Tang San and put my hand into her clothes. It is wrong to do that. Although the corner of Oscar's mouth was smiling, but for some reason, Tang San always felt that his smile was terrible, and he unconsciously made a smart move. Tang San looked down on Oscar, the little white-faced pig, not to mention calling him the third son now. Tang San ignored Oscar and just unleashed his Zuanshan Kung Fu and slapped Oscar in the face with a wave of his palm. Oscar hastily stretched out his hand to grab his wrist, continued to smile and said, little Sanzi, you have to remember not to slap people in the face. Crack. Oscar waved Tang San and slapped Tang San and continued, of course, if you are strong enough, you can fight casually. Just like this. Crack, it feels like his little face is a little hot. Of course he is not ashamed, but really hot from being slapped. Tang San's eyes were broken and confused. He thought he was a genius on Douluo continent, or the kind of genius who could instantly kill all his peers. But now he is not confident in himself, because there are two strong peers in front of him, and he can't react at all to Oscar's attack. Is this little white pig brother-in-law so strong? Is it so strong that I don't even have the strength to fight back? It turns out that the little white pig is not a little white meat pig, but a real pig pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Am I really incapable of fighting back? No, I still have Tang Sect hidden weapons. Thinking of this, he raised his left hand suddenly, and 3 black lights shot out silently. This is exactly the first hidden weapon that Tang San worked so hard to forge on the Douluo continent, the Zhujian. Although the hidden arrows were issued by GKUO and only had the ability to attack directly, Tang San had enough confidence in the hidden weapon of the hidden arrow. He firmly believed that his 3 hidden arrows would surely knock down this brother-in-law in front of him pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. His technique and timing are really ingenious. If it were someone else, he would definitely be defeated by his 3 sleeve arrows, or even die directly. Tang San's attack was really too ruthless. The places his 3 sleeve arrows attacked were all fatal places, namely the throat, heart and eyebrows. If someone else, even a great soul master, was unprepared, he would be killed directly by him. But what he was facing was Oscar, who knew his details, and Oscar had long been on guard against him. After all, Tang San's hidden weapons were no joke. Although he was not afraid of Tang San's poison, he was still afraid of pain. When Tang San raised his hand, Oscar knew that Tang San was finally getting angry, and he was going to use one of his whole cards. The first time Tang San launched the hidden arrow, he used his spirit bone and spirit ability. 2 green lights flashed on his bowling, and he shouted pretentiously, "God Eater shield armor." I saw a layer of green shield appeared in front of Oscar, and the shield emitted emerald green light. Ding, ding, ding. 3 impact sounds sounded. Tang San's 3 sleeve arrows were all blocked by Oscar's shield. This surprised Tang San, because the timing and position of his shot just now were just right. But even so, his sleeve arrow was blocked by Oscar, which also proved that Oscar's brother-in-law is a real strong man. His reaction ability and observation ability are beyond ordinary people. No wonder Aozhou is obedient by his side. It turns out that he is really capable. But he didn't feel that he was much worse than Oscar, because he still had a trump card. That is a clear sky hammer. But his father and the master who just paid homage both said that he should not use the Ocean hammer to pretend to be coercive until death is on the rise. But now he felt that his life was not in danger, because Oscar had already done it to kill him, so why would he keep slapping him on the mouth? Little Sanzi, you have to remember, if you have no strength, don't pretend to be aggressive, let alone delusional. I'm doing this for your own good too. Oscar patted Tang San's face with his hands. Of course Tang San understands what Oscar said, but he doesn't have the strength to refute now, because he still can't use the clear sky hammer. As Oscar said, he is not strong enough now, and is very weak, but he firmly believes that with his Tang Sect unique skills and twin martial arts, one day he will surpass Oscar. Tang San felt Oscar's palm slapping him one after another. He took this slap as a motivation to spur him. He would return his capital with interest one day. Of course Oscar knew what he was thinking. Originally Oscar wanted to force Tang San's Rishan hammer out. But oh shit, he was unmoved at all, indifferent. He knew that this guy was going to be an old cunt. If Oscar was not afraid of his father Tang Heo now, he would have been paralyzed by Tang San killing him just now. How could he be allowed to continue jumping here? But Tang Heo wouldn't take it lightly, because this was just a sparring between his peers. As long as he didn't hit too hard, Tang Heo wouldn't come out to blow up farts. But this guy actually endured his slapping with 100 times more energy. Oscar suddenly understood what Tang San was thinking. Isn't this 30 years of Hedon? 30 years of Hexy? Don't you bully the young and poor? But you and I are both teenagers. Why are you the only one who is poor? No, I have to make him jingle poor. Oscar stopped his stroking. He patted Tang San's shoulder and said, "Little Sanzi, are you thinking about something unrealistic? Are you trying to surpass me?" Let me tell you very clearly, your idea is really unrealistic, because besides being a soul master, I'm also a beast trainer. Little Kaylin, come out and play. After Oscar finished speaking, Xiao Kaylin let Xiao Kaylin out, and the moment Xiao Kaylin came out, she yelled. Wow, the effect of little Kaylin's appearance is very spectacular, because it is coiled on Oscar's body. Its body exudes colorful and dazzling light, and its body has become super big now. Of course, the premise is that no one is hurt, and the few beds around Oscar are not damaged. The moment Xiao Kaylin came out, except for Oscar and Xiao Wu, the rest of the children were frightened and paralyzed. Even Tang San, an adult with a strong heart, was too frightened to stand up. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 119 UXIAOGANG and -039 S Magnificent Cause. Tang San looked at the huge little Kaylin in front of him spitting at him. He suddenly felt trembling all over. His lower body twitched for a while. He suddenly felt a urge to urinate, and then he really did urinate. He felt a wet feeling from his limp ground. He hadn't felt this feeling for a long time, remembering that he was at home last time, peed all over his father, and then got a fat beating. And now he felt this feeling again, not because of how fragile his heart was, but because Xiao Kaylin was too terrifying. This was not the existence of a world at all. Tang San just came out of the village. He is completely an old hat who has never experienced the world. Where has he seen such a terrifying spirit beast? So it was completely normal for him to pee in fright. And besides him, the other children also peed in fright. Although Xiao Kaylin didn't stare at them with big eyes, they were still very scared. At the same time, in a room in the registry of Notting College. What did you say? There is no 10-year-old great soul master? Or two? The two middle-aged men sat up on the chairs in surprise and shouted in disbelief. Director Su said with a slight smile on his old face, the soul power they released just now chased the two teachers, Zhang Dao and Li Chen. It's about the same level. Is what you said true? A man of medium build and slightly on the thin side said. This man looked about 4 or 50 years old, with short black hair and short cut, as if he had just been out of a certain place for a few days. This man's appearance is very ordinary, with his hands behind his back, exuding a very special pretentious temperament. His eyes are now emitting a dazzling and compelling light, and he is not at all lazy and decadent before. This person is none other than Yu Xiaogang, the master of 3 cannons who was eating and drinking at Notting College. Yu Xiaogang's expression is very urgent now, because he has never seen such a little monster. Compared with Tang San who just met at the door, isn't this little monster several times better? Being able to reach the soul power of a great soul master at a young age can no longer be described as a monster. This is completely a monster, a peerless monster that shocked the Douluo continent. Although my martial spirit is incomplete, and I have suffered all the insults they gave me, if I accept them as my apprentices, then my status in the Douluo continent will definitely be high in the future. Hugging Liu Erlang on the left and Bibidang on the right. Speaking of which, one of them is now the Dean of Lanba Academy, and the other is the Pope of Wuhan Temple. If they are under the pressure again, there will definitely be a more exciting feeling than before. Yu Xiaogang was thinking of this, with a lewd smile that had never appeared on the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he had already planned Oscar and Xiao Wu into his grand cause. Where are they now? Yu Xiaogang asked Director Su excitedly and urgently. Director Su looked at this abnormal master, frowned slightly and said, they have already found a place to live. I want to join our Notting College with their qualifications, and I must give them some special privileges, otherwise we wouldn't be able to keep them here. Yu Xiaogang said hurriedly, I'll go find them. Stop, Xiaogang. You can't act too hastily, they are still at Notting College, they can't run away. Director Su, you are doing a great job. Your salary will be doubled in the future. The man who had been silent at the side praised. This man is very strong, with a particularly burly figure. His physical strength is about the same as that of Xiao Waoqi, but his height is more than a head taller than Xiao Waoqi's, and his skin is also somewhat scorched. There is also thick hair growing on his face, and the features of the beard on his face are nothing more than trivial. If he is not wearing clothes, you will definitely think he is a monster chimpanzee at the first sight. This chimpanzee-like person is the Dean of Notting College, who is Yu Xiaogang's good friend Yuan Hao. Yuanhao thought for a while and said seriously, it is our honor for not in college for them to come to our not in college as students, and we must give them enough privileges. That's good. They are in the college, you can do whatever you want. Even if you hit the teacher, we don't care. Director Su and Yu Xiao Gang looked at Dean Yuanhao in surprise and asked in unison, are you serious? Yuanhao said seriously, bullshit. Of course I'm serious. Otherwise, how could we keep them? After all, our dormitory is not luxurious. It's a big suite. Hey, why don't you let them live in my room? Little just now. I will squeeze with you in the future. Director Su, you need to implement this matter quickly. The corner of Yu Xiao Gang's mouth twitched. Nimmer, I don't want to sleep with you. You have so much hair. You almost killed me the first few times. It seems that I have to find these two Avaldos quickly. So he slapped his forehead and said with bright eyes, oh, I haven't delivered the quilt to my apprentice Tangsun yet. How could I have forgotten about it? You guys are busy first. I have to deliver it. Yu Xiao Gang walked out of the room with a bang, and when he turned the corner to the other side, he suddenly turned from walking to running and ran hard to the students' dormitory building. The so-called time is life. In order to complete his magnificent cause, he must now act at super speed. Well, Dean. Seeing his anxious look, he wants to take those two children as his apprentices. Director Su said, looking at the doorway, where no one was there. Yuanhao nodded indifferently and said, of course. After all, Xiao Gang has waited all these years and finally met so many Avaldos all at once. Of course he must cherish this hard-won opportunity. Director Su said softly, Dean, should we stop him? After all, they are all super good seedlings. We can't let them all be destroyed by the master. After all, the children he destroyed all these years are no longer less. If we hadn't dealt with his aftermath, his reputation would have been so bad. Dean Yuanhao shook his head and said, no need this time. Those two children can't worship him as a teacher. They both have such a high level of soul power at this age. How can they not have a good teacher? Leading Xiao Gang is doomed to fail this time. And at this moment, they felt a majestic soul power emanating. Although this soul power was not hostile, it was so strong that they felt a little trembling. They hurriedly jumped out of the window and rushed towards the dormitory. So their speed caught up with the master in an instant, and Yuanhao stretched out his hand to pick up Yu Xiao Gang and ran to the dormitory building quickly. And when they came to Kish, they could only use two words to describe their current mood. Fuck me, please subscribe. Ask for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 120. Master, how wet is it? When Yuanhao, Director Su and Yu Xiao Gang came to the door of Kish, they saw Xiao Kailen's figure. They had no choice but to groan to describe their surprise. Because little Kailen's body is too huge. Its huge body has already filled up the whole Kish, and it's not something they can deal with just judging by the size of the body. Especially Yu Xiao Gang. His title of master is not for nothing. After he saw Xiao Kailen's body, he recognized Xiao Kailen's features in an instant. So he counted softly. 1, 2, 3. Besides, Dean Yuanhao and Director Su, who were beside him, also realized in an instant and followed his soft words, counting secretly. 4, 5. The more they counted, the more frightened they became, especially when they counted to 5. They felt their heads buzzing, because there were 5 colors, which proved that it was a colorful sky-swallowing python, and that was also it proved that this is a 1000-year-old soul beast, and the 1000-year-old soul beast is not something they can deal with at Notting Junior College. And even the Dean Yuanhao can only deal with a soul beast that is no more than 700 years old. But obviously they haven't finished counting, because they found another color, and that color occupies a small place on Xiao Kailen's body. With such a color, 6. 10,000 years soul beast, 6 colored sky swallowing python. The 3 elderly men shouted in horror. Their shouts attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Xiao Kailen turned her head to look at them. Dean, Director, Master. The students looked at them happily. Teacher. Tangsun sat paralyzed on the ground and smiled at the corner of his mouth. When Tangsun saw Yu Xiao Gang, it was as if he had found a backbone. He decided that he would sue, and he would tell his teacher that this little white pig named Oscar bullied him, a freshman. But he saw something wrong with his teacher's expression. When the three old men saw Zio Kalen's big red eyes, they immediately felt their legs trembling. If it wasn't because they were holding back, they would have been scared enough to pee their pants. However, the Dean Yuan Hao really deserved to be the head of the first academy. Although he was very afraid of Zio Kalin, the first thing he thought of was the safety of the students. He immediately shouted with all his soul power, "Students of Notting College, leave the dormitory building immediately." And he himself released his martial soul in an instant. His martial soul is just like his appearance. His martial soul is a black gorilla, and this gorilla has a very domineering name, Vigorously Chimpanzee. Yuan Hao's originally burly body became bigger again, and the muscles on his body became swollen lumps, and his jacket was instantly torn by him, because he released the martial soul. His scorched skin became even darker and glowing, and there were 4 spirit rings around him. The colors of these spirit rings were white, yellow, purple, and purple. From his soul ring, it can be seen that this Dean Yuan Hao definitely came from a very poor family, otherwise his first soul ring would not have been a white 10-year soul ring. And the other directors who also released their martial souls. They thought that their strength could not be the opponent of this 6-colored sky-swallowing python, but they had to buy time for the students to escape. The scales rushed away. Contrasted with their act of sacrificing their lives, Yu Xiao Gang on the side formed a stark contrast. Not only did he not release his martial soul to help, but he stepped back a few steps and stood outside the door of Kish, looking quite ashamed. He has a tendency to run away when something is wrong. Of course, his approach is very suitable for him. His motto is more soul and more bones. One wave of skills, less soul and less bones. Just run away. Obviously the current situation is very suitable for his motto. It is already a great face for him to run away without running away. What an apprentice. What about Tang San? Is it important to have your own life? There is no apprentice to accept again. How can he complete his great cause of hugging Liu Erlang on the left and Bibi Dang on the right when his life is gone? And the reason why he didn't run away was not because Yuan Hao was his good friend, but because he thought that something was wrong. How could the 6-colored sky-swallowing python appear in the dormitory building without damaging any buildings of it? And here is the 2nd floor. So he didn't run away right away, but prepared to observe the wave first, and if there was something wrong, he would jump to the window next to him and run away. And his actions happened to be seen by Tang San. Tang San heard Director Su's ridicule before, and didn't take it seriously at all, but now Tang San feels that what they said seems to be a bit right. As a teacher, not only did he not intend to protect his apprentice, but he even wanted to escape. What a good teacher. He is not as good as the Dean and Director Su of Notting College, although their strength is not that strong, but at least they have a sense of responsibility. They are not afraid of life and death for their students, and this so-called master is just playing tricks. Seeing this, Tang San's heart suddenly became cold, but now he has worshipped the master as his teacher, and there is no chance to change, and it is too late for him to regret it now, because on Douluo Dalu, no matter whether he is after graduating from the academy, you can only recognize one master, otherwise you will be tolerated by the world. If there is a bottle of regret medicine in front of him now, he will drink it without hesitation. Oscar understood Tang San's thoughts when he saw Tang San's eyes. What he wanted was his expression. What he wanted was to create a gap between their master and apprentice. Now that his goal had been achieved, of course he would not let little Kalin and these 2 desperate old men fought. Just as Director Yuan Hao and Director Su rushed to Zio Kalin's head, Zio Kalin moved. But it didn't attack these 2, but quickly shrunk its body, and in an instant it turned into a small snake wrapped around Oscar's arm. Dean Yuan Hao and Director Su stopped their pace immediately when they saw this place. Fortunately, they didn't use their soul skills, otherwise they would definitely not be able to stop the car. They looked at Oscar standing in front of them in surprise, and at this time the master Yu Xiao Gang came to them without a trace. His action really didn't want billion. He didn't even blush, and his heart beat standing there. And he didn't want billion smile and said, "You are Oscar and Zhao Wu. Who are you? How do you know us?" Oscar asked with a puzzled expression. Director Su smiled and said, "This is Master, and this is Yuan Hao, the Dean of Notting College." Yuan Hao smiled kindly and said, "Hello. I welcome you on behalf of Notting College. I'm a master." Director Su told me your names. It's better to meet you than to be famous. Is this soul beast yours? Uzayadagang exclaimed with a smile. It's wet. How wet? Oscar said with a confused expression. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a monthly ticket. Ask for a recommendation ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 121. Old Man Uzayadagang. Uzayadagang felt dizzy after hearing Oscar's words. It should be said that some of these children don't know what it means, but how can the three old men not understand what it means? Dean Yuanhao and Director Su covered their mouths and sniggered, while Uzayadagang's expression on the side was very bad. His originally horse-shaped face directly turned into a donkey's face. Who is he? He is known as the #1 master of martial arts theory on the Douluo continent. But today, it was actually called a big wet by a kid. But in order to accept these two monstrous apprentices, he still held back his anger. He explained with a smile, I'm a master, a big one is a very big one, and a master is a master's teacher. I'm the master who put forward the 10 core competition theories. Oh, Oscar nodded as if he understood. Seeing Oscar's understanding, Uzayadagang's expression was full of enjoyment and satisfaction. But in the next moment, Oscar said blankly, I've never heard of it. Uzayadagang's heart was jumping with anger. Oscar's peachy eyes exuded admiration and said, listening to what you said, I feel that you are very powerful. Of course. Even the Pope of the Wuhan Palace would suppress. Forget it. Don't repeat the past. Would you all be willing to worship me as your teacher? Uzayadagang said proudly. Adore you as a teacher? Oscar and Xiao Wu asked in surprise. That's right. If you worship me as your teacher, I can guarantee that you will break through to the realm of a great soul master within 3 years. Master Uzayadagang said confidently. PFFT big brother, this old man is so funny. He actually said that we will break through to the great soul master within 3 years. Xiao Wu's melodious laughter reached the master's ears. Old man. Uzayadagang really wants to find a mirror now to see how old he really is. He always thought that he was a handsome, suave, handsome man, but now the little girl actually called him an old man, an old man, an old man. The old man's words hit his heart directly, making his heart feel like being stabbed by a knife. Master, you want to accept us as apprentices, so what is your current soul power level? Oscar asked with a smile. Uzayadagang is most afraid of being asked about his soul power level. This soul power level is completely his weakness. When anyone mentions it, he feels that someone is poking his heart with a knife. His heart was poked by these two children. Transparent. But he had to tell the truth, because if he didn't tell it himself, others would tell it for him, because he was a joke at not in college. Although my soul power level is only 29, but Stop. Fish. Oscar interrupted Uzayadagang and said, old man, you are too confident. You are only at level 29, and you want me to worship you as a teacher. It is also fine if you want me and Xiao Wu to worship you as a teacher. I only have one condition. That is to defeat my beast pet little Kaylin. As long as you defeat little Kaylin, you can be called your father, not to mention your master. The corner of Uzayadagang's mouth twitched. Did this brat speak human language? Let me defeat your beast pet. How old is your beast pet? Do you not know how old the soul beast is? That is the 10,000 year soul beast 6-colored sky swallowing python. Not to mention me as a great soul master. Even a strong soul saint is not sure that he can defeat it. Oh, forget it. There is no fate. After Uzayadagang said these words, his figure was a bit decadent, and he became much older in an instant. Seeing the master like this, Oscar secretly felt it was funny and asked you to pretend. If you don't have the strength to pretend to be coercive every day, you will use your mouth to be coercive, so don't pretend to be coercive this time. Oscar came in front of Tang San, stretched out his hand and patted Tang San's shoulder and said, little Sanzi, do you have any other ideas now? Tang San's eyes are now dull, his eyes looking forward blankly. He is in a very bad mood now. Originally, he thought that with his aptitude, he would definitely surpass Oscar in the future, but when he saw Xiao Kaylin appearing in front of his eyes, he found that his idea was completely unrealistic. Not to mention him, even the useless master he recognized, could do nothing against Oscar, and was even a little afraid. His eyes were blank, thinking about what to do in the days to come. and as Tang-san's master, Uzai Gang, of course, also noticed Tang-san's expression of losing confidence, and he came to Tang-san's side with heavy steps. Although he didn't receive Oscar and Xiao Wu, he still has Tang-san here. Although Tang-san is not as talented as them, he is also very ugly, he is also very short, his hair is not long, and he doesn't have a beast pet, but he believes that under his careful teaching, Tang-san will definitely surpass them one day in the future of. The reason why he is so confident is of course, because Tang-san has a powerful father. Although he doesn't know where Oscar and Xiao would come from, he can be sure that their father is not as strong as Tang-san's. Tang-san's father is a titled Douluo, and he still has a 10-year spirit ring. With his father, his path will definitely be smooth, and he will go a long way, and one day he will meet again hugging Bibidong and Liu Erlong, and even other younger sisters. Master Uzai Gang patted Tang-san's left shoulder and said, "Little San, don't be discouraged. There are no trash spirits, only trash soul masters. Don't forget your hammer." Tang-san looked at his teacher and smiled helplessly. "Who gave you the courage to say that? You haven't broken through to Soul Master at such an age. Are you calling yourself a waste?" Tang-san stretched out his hand angrily, knocking Uzai Gang's hand off his shoulder. "Little Sana, you." Uzai Gang said in disbelief. Tang-san smiled and said, "I don't like others pressing my shoulders. I won't grow taller like this." Although Uzai Gang felt that something was wrong with Tang-san, he didn't think too much about it. After all, what he said was very reasonable, because he also told his father that way when he was a child. "Okay, alright. It's just a discussion among the students. Let's all go back to their dormitories." Director Su stretched out his hand and shouted. Under Director Su's coercion, the students all returned to their dormitories in desperation. Even Xiao Chenai went back obediently, and this was of course because the boss Oscar asked him to go back. How could Oscar let Tang-san and Uzai Gang go so easily? The most important thing is that his task has not been completed yet. He wants to take the third son as a little brother. Din Yuan. Oscar called out to the chimpanzee Yuan Hao. Oscar and Xiao Wu are now in Din Yuan Hao's heart and have been planned as the ranks of the little ancestors. These two little ancestors are really terrifying. They actually have a 10,000-year soul beast as their pet. Just now, they just had a discussion with a student, and they released the 10,000-year soul beast. This is completely the temper of the young master and the young lady. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 122. The gap between Tang 3 and the master. Therefore, Yuan Hao now has to offer Oscar and Xiao Wu as his little ancestors. He is going to hold a vigilance meeting after returning home, emphasizing that everyone must not offend these two little ancestors. If someone offends these two little ancestors, no matter you are a student or a teacher, you will be expelled from Notting College and you will bear the consequences. And he himself decided to avoid contact with these two little ancestors as much as possible. Who knows what these two little ancestors wanted him for, but the more he was afraid of something, the more he would come. And now that little ancestor Oscar was calling him, his scorched face suddenly grinned, but his smile was uglier than crying. Din Yuan Hao showed his white teeth and smiled. "Hey, I'm here." His flattering smile and his flattering words made other people in the academy look in disbelief. Is this still their mighty and unsmiling dean? Not to mention the students of the academy. Even the teachers of the academy have never seen him show such a scary smile. Oscar frowned. This Yuan Hao must be poisonous. He really looks like someone with super white toothpaste. "I'm hungry." Oscar stroked his belly. "I'm hungry. It's hard to say. Let's go. Let's go to the cafeteria to eat delicious food. I treat you." Director Su, you trot first and tell the cafeteria to cook all the dishes. Remember, ask them to put more meat this time. He thought that this little ancestor was going to do something shocking to the world. It turned out that I was just hungry. Isn't it over when you're hungry? As long as the two little ancestors don't make trouble, what's his treat for dinner? Even if he treats guests in the future, he will only smile and never cry. Poor Director Su, who is in his 60s, has been reduced to being a waiter who sends messages. This is really sad, deplorable, and deplorable. Grumble. Just as Yuan Hao made the gesture of asking, the voice rang out, and Oscar habitually looked at Xiao Wu's abdomen. He stretched out his hand to caress Xiao Wu's lower abdomen, Xiao Wu's chubby face suddenly turned red and whispered shyly, "Big brother, it's not Xiao Wu." "Hey hey." Oscar laughed awkwardly. Grumble. The familiar voice sounded again. This time everyone found the source of the voice, and the culprit was Tangsen, who stood aside. Tangsen saw these people's eyes all focus on him. His face turned red in a flash. The redness was as red as a monkey's butt. Tangsan, as a work-study student who came from a short distance, has been hungry all the time. Old Jack didn't bring him food when he brought him here, and he had been exercising vigorously just now, so his stomach was already growling with hunger. And because of the crowd just now, the surrounding voices were extremely loud, and the sound of his stomach growling couldn't be heard at all. It was covered up. But now that the students have all left, the sound of his stomach growling is particularly harsh. It's okay if he doesn't mention eating, but his stomach can't stand it even more when eating is mentioned. Oscar patted Tangsan and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha, young man, you must be hungry. Let's go. Boss invites you to eat." Oscar seemed to suddenly think of something. He turned his head to Uzayada Gang and said, "Oh, that's right. That very wet old man. You go too." Very wet old man. These words echoed in Master Uzayada Gang's head. Yuan Hao watched speechlessly. This little ancestor actually used his money to sell favors. When Tangsen heard that Oscar, who just slapped him on the mouth, wanted to invite him to dinner, he was moved for a while. Although Oscar just slapped him in the face, he didn't blame him. Because his skills are not as good as others, and he asked for it entirely on his own. Although Oscar beat him, he was very grateful to Oscar. Because it was Oscar who made him understand that before he has no strength, don't dream about what he can't get. If what he met this time was not Oscar, but a murderous person, then his consequence would not be a few slaps, but death. He clearly realized the gap between him and Oscar. A beautiful little girl like Xiao Wu was only worthy of Oscar, and the most important thing for him now was to improve his strength. Oscar's actions deeply moved him, because Oscar was really for his own good, and the teacher he worshipped didn't care about anything. After he accepted him as an apprentice, his teacher actually let him come to Kish by himself. If it wasn't because he was strong enough, he would have been bullied by Wang Sheng when he first arrived in Kish. After that, he didn't even prepare his bedding, and his actions just now made him feel even more chilling. And now it was not his teacher who invited him to dinner, but Oscar, who had just fought with him, which made him even more resentful towards his teacher. If it wasn't for Uzayada Gang's discovery of his twin martial souls, he will definitely sever the master-student relationship with Uzayada Gang on the spot. Of course, even now, he has thrown away the concept of being a teacher for a day and a father for life. He decided that in the future, he and Uzayada Gang will only have a relationship of mutual use, and no longer have any emotional relationship. Led by the Dean Yuan Hao, they walked to the cafeteria of the college. The canteen is inside the teaching building, and the teaching building is directly opposite the dormitory building, separated by a playground. Now the playground has become very lively, much more lively than before Oscar and Xiao Wu came to the dormitory. There were many students wearing not in college uniforms on the playground, and their goal was obviously the teaching building. Of course, their purpose was to eat. And the moment the Dean Yuan Hao appeared, the students on the playground immediately spotted him. Just like the students playing around in the classroom, they can always pay attention to the teacher at the first time. These students quickly divided into two rows, bent down and saluted. "Hello, Dean." The Dean's hello made Yuan Hao look good. But he doesn't have these trainees in air traffic control right now. He surrounded Oscar and Xiao Wu with a flattering face and marched towards the cafeteria. It's as if he took Oscar and Xiao Wu as leaders to inspect the work, showing a particularly hypocritical and vicious behavior. The other students also turned a blind eye to this and lowered their heads one after another, not daring to look up. They were afraid that the dean would catch their eyes and settle accounts with them in the future. The canteen of Notting College is very large, big enough to accommodate more than people from 6 classes plus teachers to eat together. The canteen is divided into 2 floors. There are more than 300 seats on the first floor alone. The first floor is the buffet for students. You can only order a la carte, only platters. At this time, the dining window of the cafeteria on the first floor was already full of long queues, and everyone was well behaved. But all of this was broken because the Dean Yuanhao came in and they shouted in a polite manner, "Hello, Dean." Of course Yuanhao would not pay attention to them. He introduced to Oscar and Xiao Wu with a smile. "The first floor is where we eat buffet, and the second floor is where we eat. Let's go to the private room on the second floor. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a monthly ticket. Ask for a recommendation ticket." End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Gaining RYIN and -039's favor. Oscar and the others came to the private room on the second floor. Although this private room is called a private room, it is very large inside. It can accommodate more than 20 people to eat together. And in the middle there is a huge round revolving table, on which there is a table of hearty meals. Director Su trotted over to explain this table of dishes, and what he explained was to ensure the quality and speed, not only delicious, but also fast. Dean Yuanhao asked the two young ancestors to sit down first, and then he didn't care about the master and Tangsun who were standing aside, and sat down on the chair. He is very tired of this student Tangsun now. This Tangsun is completely the culprit. If this Tangsun is not disobedient, how could these two little ancestors release the 10,000-year spirit beast? And how could they let the whole Notting colleges in riots? If Oscar hadn't personally invited Tangsun to have dinner, he would have sent someone to expel Tangsun from Notting College. How could he let Tangsun stand here? And now he even has a grudge against the master standing next to him, secretly despising in his heart. It's fine if the master is a waste, and the apprentices he accepts are also waste, and the waste alone is not counted. After the meal is over, I will let you two pack up and leave. Oscar saw Tangsun and Dashi standing there stupidly, and said with a playful smile, "Little Sanzi, come here, sit next to me, and quickly take your teacher to sit down too. Don't be polite, just treat this place as your own home. Do you have to ask me, the boss, to ask you to sit down?" Tangsun sat down on the chair. As soon as he heard this, he didn't care about the master next to him. The master's complexion is very bad now. He thought to himself, what's wrong with Xiaozhen? Could it be that he was just stimulated by Oscar? It seems that I have to finish my meal and enlighten him well. Oscar, Xiao Wu, you two are welcome. If these dishes don't taste right, let them make them again. Hahaha. Dean Yuanhao laughed loudly. Oscar and Xiao Wu had already been hungry after a long day of running around. They couldn't bear it any longer after seeing these meals. They were not polite at all. They were very reserved, and they let go of their stomachs and ate politely. Big pot, this dish is too salty. Poor review. Daguogo, this dish is too bland. There is no meat. Poor review. Big pot, this is okay. Xiao Wu, you're right. If you add more fuel to this one, the taste will be even more delicious. Yuanhao thought to himself, these two little ancestors were picky, but I didn't see them eating less. And Tangsun on the other side didn't show any weakness. He thought, so, I can't beat you, I can always beat you. So he secretly competed with Oscar, but he didn't think about how big he was. Compared with Oscar's height, he was at least a head shorter. Even Xiao Wu's height is more than half a head taller than him. How could he eat Oscar? The master saw that his apprentice was competing with Oscar, so he also helped Tangsun pick up the dishes. The master didn't even eat it himself. He directly contributed his bowl, desperately filling the bowl with vegetables. So Tangsun's stomach bulged like a ball. He really couldn't eat it anymore. And looking at Oscar and Xiao Wu, they seemed to have just eaten, or it was a slow motion with their left and right hands. Oscar and Xiao Wu were only half full. They didn't seem to have a big belly. Oscar affectionately wiped Xiao Wu's oily lips with a napkin. Big brother, look quickly. Little San's stomach has been enlarged by the big wet. Hehe. Xiao Wu pointed at Tangsun's stomach and laughed. Look at Oscar, isn't it? Tangsun sat slumped on the chair. His stomach seemed to be pregnant in Jiu. Oscar couldn't help admiring. Dashi really is Dashi. The title of Dashi is not for nothing. Dashi can make Xiao San's belly bigger in just one meal. It's really a miracle also. Hearing this, Tang-san glared at the master, which means it's all your fault, it's all on you. The master also said that this is really not bad for me, it was you who showed what you wanted, and I just satisfied you. In order to get rid of this embarrassing situation, Director Yuan Hao said to Director Su, who was standing beside him, Director Su, please go order some more fruit plates. Director Su wanted to kill him, the dean, in his heart. You sit while I stand, and you eat while I watch. Why do you want a fruit plate after eating, and order some medicine? Director Su walked out of the room with a smile on his old face. Little San, from now on, you will recognize me as the boss. In the future, I will take you flying. Oscar stretched out his hand and rubbed Tang-san's head and said. Tang-san was silent. He neither agreed nor refused. His eyes were fixed on Oscar. Of course Oscar understands what he means. This young man has made another old mistake. He thinks he is very smart and keeps silent, so as not to make Oscar angry, but also express why I want to follow you. If the target is the master, he will indeed be praised by the master, but this time the target is Oscar, and Oscar will not accept his tricks. Oscar rubbed Tang-san's head vigorously and said, you have eaten the rice, you have also drank the water. If you promise or not, give me a quick word. If you don't promise to pay back the money. NMB, it's hard to guard against. What the hell is paying back the money? Hearing this, he turned his head towards the master, as his teacher Uzaya Gang will always help him solve it. But he found that his teacher turned his head to the corner of the wall and didn't turn his head to look at him at all. The master looked at the wall and thought, don't call me, don't call me, don't call me. How could he possibly be able to afford this money back? Anyway, I'm here to make money. It's none of my business. I'm hanging on high. Tang-san looked at the master, who looked like he didn't know him. His heart was terribly cold. Since that's the case, that's all. It's more than enough to be my boss with Oscar's strength, and I won't lose if I recognize him as my boss. Tang-san made up his mind. He shouted at Oscar, boss. Hey, it's comfortable. Oscar said with a satisfied face. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the task of accepting Tang-san as a younger brother. Congratulations to the host for getting the task reward. Aryan's favor. Oscar didn't feel the slightest bit about getting this reward. He was thinking that this reward was not used by the system to bluff people. At the same time, in a hidden mountain forest, there was a rough man with an unshaven beard stroking a blue silver grass, and this blue silver grass was also wrapped around the man's body. This picture is extremely disgusting. If others see it, they will definitely praise this guy. TUI old pervert. This old pervert is none other than Tang-san's father, Tang Heo. Tang Heo said softly with the blue silver grass frivolously. Ayan, our child has already gone. Ask for a subscription. Ask for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 124 Golden Iron Pants. At this moment, the branches and leaves of this blue silver grassland that were originally wrapped around Tang Heo's body suddenly let go of Tang Heo, and all the branches and leaves were far away from Tang Heo, as if they were treating a stranger. Ayan, what's wrong with you? Don't you know me? I'm Zio Heo Heo. Tang Heo said in surprise. He leaned forward, ready to embrace the blue silver grass again, but just as he stretched out his hand, the branch of the blue silver grass slammed into his face fiercely. Crack 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 bang bang bang. Tang Heo's eyes were dull, feeling the heat on his face. He couldn't believe that Aryan would treat him like this. He looked up to the sky and screamed, no, no, no. The snowflakes are fluttering, the north wind is rustling, and the world is boundless. Clap 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 clap. Of course, Oscar, the instigator, didn't know all this happened. He was looking at his new little brother Tang-san in high spirits. Little Sanzi, from now on, you should still call Zio Wu Miss Zio Wu, and call me brother-in-law. I still like the title brother-in-law. Tang-san said obediently, good brother-in-law. Sister Zio. Zio Wuxi took out a handful of jelly beans from Xiaofan and handed them to Tang-san, and said with a smile, Hee Zio-san, this is a meeting gift from Miss Zio Wu. Tang-san looked at the pile of jelly beans in his hand in a daze. Did he treat me like a child? And Oscar also took out a bag of golden soul coins from the little black snake and handed it to Tang-san. Little San, here are 10 gold soul coins for your food expenses. Tangsun looked down at the golden soul coin in his hand. With tears in his eyes, he said emotionally, Sister Aozhou, brother-in-law. Staring at Tang San's moved look, Oscar felt amused in his heart. He acted very bored and said, okay, stop crying. If you don't want to return it to my brother-in-law, I don't mind. There are also the jelly beans that Xiao Wu gave you. They are not ordinary jelly beans. What is the effect? You will know after you taste one, after you go back. After Tangsun heard this, he hurriedly stuffed the golden soul coin and jelly beans into his pocket. But at this moment, a big hand grabbed everything in his hand. Tangsun looked up. This person was none other than his teacher, Grandmaster. The master quickly snatched the jelly beans from Tang San's hand and quickly stuffed two into his mouth. Crackling, crackling. Tang San's eyes widened, staring at the master who snatched his jelly beans in front of him. His little face became particularly ferocious. If he was only disappointed with him as a teacher before, after this incident, he would become disgusted. Now he particularly loathes this handsome teacher. As a teacher, he actually snatches something from his apprentice. What a joke. Tang San's eyes exuded fierce murderous intent. Now he wished he could kill his teacher with his little needle. His eyes were seen by Oscar. Even the Dean Yuan Hao also saw it, but Yu Xiao Gang, who was watched, did not find such Tang San. He didn't have the time to pay attention to Tang San now. He was feeling the jelly beans in his mouth, and after feeling the effect of the jelly beans, he immediately grinned widely. It really is this little jelly bean. Ha 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 hiccup. I just said that your little belt is familiar. It turns out to be from my family. No wonder you don't take me as your teacher. The master laughed out loud like crazy. The Dean Yuan Hao came in front of the master, stretched out his black hand like a bear's paw, and touched the master's head. The master hurriedly avoided the shock and said, Principal, what are you doing? Dean Yuan Hao said seriously, I see if you have a fever. If you have a fever, I will lock you up in a small dark room, so you don't infect your little ancestors. The master ignored Dean Yuan Hao, but put his hands behind his back and raised his head high. He came to the side of Oscar and Xiao Wu and said, Do you two know Flender the four-eyed owl? None of your business. Oscar pouted. That's right, it's none of your business. Xiao Wu said in a very cute way, curling her lips. The master was choked and a little out of breath. The hand behind his back just now quickly slapped his own chest, and the temperament he had just recovered disappeared in an instant. Flender is my eldest brother. We have a group called Dungdigging Boy. Oscar quickly answered. PFFT boy, ha ha ha. Yuan Hao couldn't help laughing. He, big brother, you are so bad. You actually said that he was playing that combination. Xiao Wu smiled smartly. Master Yu Xiao Gang patted his chest and quickly explained. No. Our combination is called the Golden Triangle. Flender is the horn of flying, I'm the horn of wisdom, and the other one is the horn of killing. Oscar was very angry when he heard this. This handsome scumbag, Yu Xiao Gang, doesn't even want to mention Liu Erlang's name, but Liu Erlang still misses him. TUI the Chinese cabbage is pretty good, but I can't let this scumbag give it to me. I will definitely make Liu Erlang realize his hypocrisy in the future. But now, of course you have to slap him in the face. Golden Iron Triangle. Isn't that the Golden Iron Pants? You and Four Eyes still have such a combination. Oscar pulled Xiao Wu away from Yu Xiao Gang and said with a look of disgust. Golden Iron Pants. Yu Xiao Gang felt his head buzzing, as if a mouthful of blood was drawn up from his throat. He swallowed a mouthful of spit and pressed down forcefully. He smiled and said, yes. Flender with Four Eyes and I are good brothers. My name is Yu Xiao Gang. Oscar patted his head and said in surprise, oh so it's you. Why didn't you say it earlier? If you had said your name earlier, I wouldn't have hated you like this. Hahaha it's okay. I won't mind. Yu Xiao Gang waved his hand indifferently. Oscar was particularly pleased and said, so you are the Yu Xiao Gang who Four Eyes always said, stealing his first love girlfriend. You did a good job. You did a beautiful job. We all adore you. Our little friends, I have always regarded you as an idol, and we have been working hard to follow your footsteps, step by step, to catch up with you in the Dean's heart, and we will be the person the Dean hates the most. PFFT Uzayao gang couldn't hold back the blood any longer, and it sprayed out like a high pressure water gun, so he fainted. Scatter flowers. La 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 la. Spread flowers. Oscar dragged Xiao to dance, and sang while dancing. Of course, Oscar would not sympathize with Uzayao gang. This is what Uzayao gang, a scumbag, deserves. All he wants is to play with him and vomit blood. Oscar said to Tang-san, who was gloating beside him, "Little San, what are you still doing in a daze? Send your teacher away." "Okay, brother-in-law. I will definitely send him away." Tang-san smiled upwards. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. End of this chapter. Chapter 125 Tang 3. Dad said that children from poor families should be heads of home early. And Din Yuan Hao, who was watching the fun, didn't care because he heard from the conversation between them just now that they knew each other and they were playing around with each other. He thought to himself, it's none of your business, you have to hang on high, you can play however you want, I'd better run away. Oscar, Xiao, you guys are busy first, I have to go first. Director Su. Director Su. Just let the waiter bring the fruit plate. We haven't finished registering new students yet. Director Su heard the deans yell and suddenly appeared with a large fruit plate. He quickly put the fruit plate on the table and quickly ran away with the Dean Yuan Hao. And now in the huge private room, there are only 3 people, Oscar, Xiao and Tang-san. There is also a master lying on the ground very wet. And Tang-san was struggling to lift the master to take him away from here. Although he was born with supernatural power, Uzayao gang was not an all, and his small hands were not strong enough to hold or carry him. Oscar shook his cerebellum and reminded Tang-san, "Little San, you can't lift it up, can't you drag it? Look at this place is so slippery, you can move him just by pulling him." Tang-san had a flash of inspiration and thanked him. "Hey, why didn't I think of it? Thank you brother-in-law for pointing it out." So he stretched out his hand and grabbed Uzayao gang's hand and began to drag it. The poor master's famous name was actually regarded as a mop by his apprentice. Tang-san led the master around the private room and praised, "Hey, it's really much better." Of course Oscar understood what he said was much better. It wasn't that the mobile master was much better, but that his mood was much better. Oscar and Xiao didn't stay too long. They also left here with Tang-san. When they came to the stairs on the 2nd floor and the 1st floor, Oscar took the initiative to help Master Uzayao gang move to the 1st floor smoothly so that the master would not experience the bumpy stairs. Oscar's moving posture was very graceful. He did it just by moving his feet, hooking his legs, exerting force on his calves, exerting force on his ankles, and shooting. Whoosh. Plop. Uzayao gang landed perfectly and safely, but he spit out a mouthful of blood involuntarily. Fortunately, because they take a long time to eat, there are not many people in the cafeteria on the 1st floor, otherwise there will definitely be riots. Of course, the only few people didn't dare to come forward to join in the fun. This excitement is not something they can join in. Didn't you see that Dean Yuan Hao ran away early just now? Tang-san dragged Master to the infirmary, and Oscar and Xiao also stopped by to have a look. After all, in the academy, they still had to show a slightly concerned look. Of course, they just put the master in the infirmary and went back to the dormitory. As for the medical expenses, of course they will be paid when he wakes up. How can they waste money? Otherwise, wouldn't it be delicious to feed jelly beans? Of course Uzayao gang still has jelly beans in his pocket now. Tang-san, who returned to the dormitory, immediately entered the role of younger brother. He quickly merged the 3 beds next to him together, and he also found a towel and wiped the bed carefully from the inside to the outside. Sweat dripped down his little face due to busy work, but he didn't feel tired. It was a very happy thing for him to serve his little sister Wu and brother-in-law. And he knows that what he pays will be rewarded. As long as they are happy, they will always reward him with something. Now he has no one to rely on and not in college, and the teachers he recognizes don't treat him sincerely. Oscar and Xiao are his only relatives now, so he has to take care of them wholeheartedly. Didn't see how competitive they are as their little brother. Xiao Chenai alone is enough for him to drink a pot, so if he wants to live a decent life, he must have some sweat on his head. After he was busy, He obediently stood aside, waiting for Oscar and Xiaowu to review. Looking at such a big bed, Oscar and Xiaowu smiled happily. Big brother, this bed is so big. It's not too different from our bed. We can spend as much as we want. Xiaowu Fan showed a joyful smile on her pouty face. Oscar rubbed Tang San's head and praised, "Little San, you did a great job." Tang San was very happy to hear their praise. It felt like his father praised him at home. Oscar took out a set of bedding from the little black snake and threw it to Tang San, saying, "Little San, I don't think you have any bedding yet, so I will give you this set of bedding." Brother-in-law Tang San held the quilt with both hands and was moved to tears. Oscar said impatiently, "Stop peeing, go make the bed." Oscar took out another set of cute pink quilts and put them on the big bed, and he and the little dancers matched them up. At this time Tang San came over and said, "Sister Xiaowu, brother-in-law Oscar, I'm going to clean the playground. Go quickly. Remember to come back early." Oscar said impatiently. Xiaowu asked curiously, "Little Sanzi, why are you cleaning the playground?" Tang San's expression was painful, and he said sadly, "Because I'm a work-study student. My family is very poor. My father told me, since I was a child, that children from poor families should be the head of the family early, so I have to live frugally and earn living expenses." The little third son, "You are so pitiful." Yawned. Xiaowu opened her mouth slightly and yawned very cutely. She rubbed her eyes lightly with her small hand and said, "Big brother, Xiaowu is a little tired. Hey, then let's go to sleep." Oscar smiled. Tang San is very knowledgeable, so Oscar hugged Xiaowu tightly and fell asleep. When Tang San came back from his work, seeing their warm scene, he showed a natural smile. He took out his bedsheet very intimately and quietly hung it between the two beds, just to prevent other people from peeping. After all, his little dancer and Oscar's brother-in-law are too delicate, and he doesn't want others to see their sleeping faces. The next morning, Tang San was sitting on his bed in the 7th dormitory of Notting College. He was exhausted, his eyes were dull, and his eyes had big dark circles. "Big brother, it's already dawn. You quickly take out your hands." "No, it's still early before class starts. Stay a little longer." "Well, that's fine." Although Tang San's ears were stuffed with 2 cotton buds, they still couldn't stop this imaginative movement at all. Tang San was wondering whether he should wake up the 2 bosses. Today is the opening ceremony. The other students moved their chairs to the playground and waited in the middle of the night, and because he was Oscar and Xiaowu's younger brother, he waited here to attend the opening ceremony with them. And the dean has already sent Director Su to urge him twice. The most important thing is that it is not the 2 little ancestors who are bedridden, but him. No, Director Su came in like a thief again. Ask for a subscription, ask for a recommendation ticket, ask for a monthly ticket, give a little, even a drop. End of this chapter. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.